Hey, everybody. It's Tuesday, November 12th. I've not uploaded an episode for the podcast since October 8th because, quite frankly, it's just been a lot. I had a recording date that we couldn't make for various reasons, all of them related to the impacts of Hurricane Helene. I had an awesome episode for Halloween and, once again, wasn't able to get around to actually recording it. That being said, the water situation here in Asheville, North Carolina, where I live and record the podcast, is looking up. They think we'll have potable water running through our taps by mid-December, which is great news. In the meantime, we have a setup at our house that's making it a lot easier for us to access potable water, including a filter for our shower head that lets our family now take showers. We just got that last week. So we do have some really exciting episodes coming up. I can't wait to share them with you. And in the meantime, what I'm going to do is post an episode that was recorded recently for the Burros of Berea. My co-host, Rick Welch, is the host of Burros of Berea Podcast, and I am occasionally a guest on his show. We recently did a Hurricane Helene wrap-up with all of the Burros of Berea team. So in lieu of a personally recorded episode for you, we are going to upload that episode instead. It'll give you a little bit of insight on what's been going on around here with me and my family, but also with all the members of the Burros of Berea podcast. They are a wonderful team of people that I love deeply. So I hope you enjoy that episode, and we will have a brand new, very exciting episode coming up for you the next time I see you guys here on Notes from the Other Side. All right, thanks, folks. Have a great day, and I hope you enjoy. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Notes from the Other Side. This is a podcast for people who love Jesus but have some real concerns about Christianity. Here at Notes, we take a microscope to some of Christianity's thornier topics and people using a progressive theological lens and a socio-historical approach to studying the Bible. So if that sounds like your jam, come on in and have a seat. But buckle up, it might get bumpy.
Welcome back to the Burros of Berea. I am Rick Welch, and to my left, back from Las Vegas,
Finally.
Billy I Candy Kinsey.
Where'd you get the tattoo from?
Not just fun size, but also king size.
Oh. Bro, is that a fat joke? You're the fun size, and I'm the king size. And also, Tiziana, mom so hard subverse.
I'm not eating anything. Go to bed.
Yeah, she's actually eating a green Snickers, a ghoulish green Snickers that
The
Billy
amount of
brought.
times I say that to my children when they poke their heads out of their bedroom while I'm in there shoveling ice cream in my mouth that I told them they couldn't have. I'm not eating anything. Go to bed.
Have your kids started doing like the eavesdropping yet? Where they're listening into the adult conversations?
So we're going to jump right into heavy stuff if you have that conversation.
Okay.
Let's keep it light.
My kids used to love, like, we would be quietly talking, and then all of a sudden they come in there, but why? Why are you going to do that? It's like, why are you listening to me?
Yeah.
Also, here is the Honorable Sarita, the Edge Edgerton.
Hello, y'all.
Yeah, it's so good to see
We
you
got a
guys.
week and a half until I am officially elected,
I know.
and 2.5 weeks till I get sworn in.
God, it
Yes.
seems like it's already been 7 years since the
I know.
primary.
I know.
It does really.
How long does it take before somebody buys you out?
They can't afford me.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's more money than Elon's got.
Behind the glass is Rocket Man Andy Bishop.
Cow, I'm significantly cheaper than that. Let me know.
Yeah, it's like, I hate to think what I do for $5, man.
There are many in Colombia who are significantly cheaper than that.
Attention catfishers.
Yes, and you just heard that sultry voice of Rick Big Daddy Carter.
Oh, yeah.
He's kind of smaller, Daddy Carter now.
Yes,
He's lost weight too.
he sure has. What have you
Yeah.
been doing?
Not eating Snickers, that's for sure.
Yeah, I didn't get the email. Sorry, guys.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, rolling
I've
with
lost
the-
15 pounds.
No, I mean, you've been an
Yes.
encouragement.
Damn, that's good.
You've been an encouragement there, Rick.
Is that on top of the 10 that you already did for your 85,000 steps doing your vote door to door?
No,
Oh, okay.
Or up and down the State House step.
So,
not yet.
believe it or not, this is the crazy thing. Cherry Lewis was actually supposed to be here tonight. She was. And
The
I've been
elusive Cherry Lewis.
I have been seeing her recently. I know because
Really? Is that you've been sitting? Does Holly know?
no, not like that. Not like that.
Oh,
So she actually has come to work at my shop.
That's awesome.
She decided she doesn't want to nurse for a while. She said she just doesn't want to take care of anybody right now, and she just wants to do a job. She's doing a phenomenal job, and she's been there for several weeks, and then she got a virus 2 days ago, and now I talked to her today, and she is very sick.
Oh, no.
So she couldn't be back, so we'll have her back again eventually. Ralph Hicks is not here. Ralph Hicks is traveling today, quoting some jobs or whatever that it is that he's doing. And so, so is there anybody else that's a part of our group that I'm forgetting? We've gotten pretty big here. And that's what she said. All right.
Hopefully.
Anyway.
Or that's not what she said.
That's not. So we're like.
Depends on if she's lucky or not.
Yeah. So we.
It was cold outside.
This episode, I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but we had a guest planned for coming here. Her name was Andrea Robinette. That was coming on that Thursday night. And that was the night that the storm was beginning here. Hurricane Helene was on its way. And she was supposed to fly, but her flights were canceled. And then so she made the decision to drive.
Wow.
She drove from Ohio and got all the way to Black Mountain.
I totally forgot about
She
that.
called me and I said, we're not going to the studio. You need to go to a safe place. And then I'll call you tomorrow. We'll see how we do in the storm, thinking that it wasn't going to be as bad as it ended up being. She got stranded in Black Mountain.
Oh my God. That is exactly where I feared this was going.
But listen, this is the crazy part. She's going to be on the show. We're going to Zoom call her in on here in a couple weeks. Okay. Do you want to know what her education is actually in? Believe it or not.
Disaster relief.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
That is her education.
That's wow.
And so what she told me, she said,
she's like, I got some firsthand experience.
she does.
Also,
and
10
because
points
she's,
for Sarita for guessing that on the
well,
first
see,
try.
she's a missionary.
Oh.
And she goes to third world countries all the time who are
Right.
always in desperate situations. So that's always like disaster relief. Like imagine going to Haiti
Well,
after.
Swannanoa and Black Mountain look like third world countries.
So,
Absolutely.
and where she was, because she was at Ridgecrest, and that, it was terrible over there. And she told me, she's like, I know that I was coming to the Burros, but she's like, God brought me for something completely different.
Absolutely.
And so
Yeah,
she
sounds
stayed
like.
here for several days. And then she went back home. She's home safe. And she, I don't know if you remember, she's the one that lost her husband and her 2 children to the fire. So she's been through a lot of tragedy, but she came here in one of our biggest tragedies ever that I've ever seen in my life here, and was a help to people. It's phenomenal.
Mr. Rogers says always look for the helpers.
Yeah, that's good.
And those are the people that you need to be with.
So she made it home safe. I spoke with her, and she is going to be on the show, but we're just going to do a Zoom. We're just going to do a Zoom and catch up with her and hear her testimony, but also hear about her experience.
Well, for somebody here, I just want to say thank you to her for staying and helping and,
Yes.
and,
Yeah.
and making the best out of a
Well,
situation
see, she has a
that was
daughter
desperate.
that goes to Montreat. And so she was going to visit her daughter. That's why she went to Black Mountain. And I told her, I was like, it's already flooding around here. And we hadn't even gotten to the hard part of the storm.
It was
Yeah.
flooding here before the actual hurricane
That's
hit.
right.
Yeah.
It had already started here because we got that outer band of rain, which softened up all the ground and all the trees. And we
Yeah.
already had flooding.
We had almost record rain before the hurricane
That's
came.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's really bizarre, guys, is it hasn't rained here since.
I know.
And now
Yeah,
we're
drought.
actually going into a drought.
Yes.
Which, I'm kind of thankful for. Can you imagine if
Yes.
it just like, ugh.
So that's what this episode's going to be about. Is we're
Well,
all going
that
to talk about our
geologist
experiences.
that I shared the YouTube video, he said some places got upward of 60 inches, but the rain gauges failed. The river
Wow.
gauges failed. So there are some places that he said they had to get upward of 60 inches.
Which sounds insane, but this is what I learned. Fairview, which is just a community that's about 5 miles
Which is
from
where
my
my
house,
sister-in-law lived.
over 30 inches of rain in a 6-hour period.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
that's
is
crazy.
insanity to think about that.
So kind of put yourself in Noah's shoes. When we talk about
40 days and 40 nights of rain?
Ooh.
Forget about it. Yeah.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. So yeah, I just wanted us to share, our experiences of what, to inform our listeners. And guys, we had a huge, amazing turnout of people all across the country that have shipped in things and helped us. And I'll get into my story here in a little while, but I want to hear all of your guys' stories. And I want to hear, let's go to the left. Billy, do you mind going first?
Sure.
Hammer down, son.
Hammer down. Okay, so Well, I want to first start off by saying, like, my family's safe, my friends are safe, loved ones are safe, homes are safe. So we didn't have any damage to that. We did have some damage done to our business of the sawmill. The sawmill is located literally right on a river. So we have probably 400 yards of river frontage, and it runs parallel from the log yard all the way to the sawmill where we process logs, to the pallet shops and the resaw shops where we break lumber down and make pallets out of. So we know what Mills River will do. It usually takes a hurricane to make it flood. So we've seen this in 04, which is weird. It was literally like 20 years ago.
04 was huge.
Yeah,
04 was bad.
Yeah, 04 was bad.
Was that Ivan?
That was
It was
Ivan and
it
Francis.
circled around, and
Yeah.
It did it again.
Francis circled around and joined Ivan and came back.
Yeah, so it was week to week, or week apart floods. So we know what to expect. We also had a pretty bad flood, and I'm wanting to say 80. No, it was early 90s.
Yeah.
It wiped us out. Now that was a bad flood too. So since then we know what to do. We know to move compressors and pallet machines and block saws up, and just move everything kind of in our little safe zone. But there was no safe zone this time. I mean, everything was flooded. We lost logs, just to give you an idea of how many. We lost a couple tractor and trailer loads of logs. So that's, when you see the logs going down the road, those two of them just gone.
Yeah.
Final Destination 2 comes to mind.
Exactly.
Ooh,
but yeah. That movie makes us scary. That, and then
Was the tractor trailer still attached to the logs?
No, it was just a pile of logs there.
Gotcha.
So.
But that's how big and
And that's
fast
big
and
enough.
swift the river was, that it
it's
was capable
gone.
of moving a
Yeah.
tractor
But
trailer's worth of logs.
How much would that financially set you back?
Well, you can usually get a trailer load of logs for $1,200 to $1,300. So there's two loads
Now,
there.
But
And then we
the
also
profit. You lost your profit out of that.
Yeah.
to
So
cut it
that's
up.
just us buying it. And then we had probably 2 tractor and trailer loads of already processed wood that was gone.
Oh no.
So that was so the way we do it real quick is we'll take logs, and then we'll cut it down into the planks, which are 4x6s. We call them cants, and that's our pallet material. So we have 4x6s, 48 inches long or 4 foot long, and we stack them on a pallet, and then we take those to resaws, and then that's what we make our pallet material before we build pallets. That way we can build, make stringers or pallet boards or whatever. So I had 5 pallets of 4x6s. So if you can imagine, it looks like a big, huge stack of Jenga on a pallet. So those things will float. So we roughly get 100 pieces per pallet. So I had 5 pallets of them sitting there. We lost 4 of them. So that's 400 4x6s somewhere.
Wow.
Along with tractor and trailer loads of logs. So, and then just other random stuff we're talking about a sawmill that's been in business for over 45 years.
Yeah.
So you accumulate junk, as far as like logs that we can't use. Since we know what the river has done, we've kind of docked the river up so it doesn't come over. It gives us a little more spillway, but nothing stopped it. So as far as damage wise, I think I counted 41 electric motors that was underwater. So we had a sawmill that was completely underwater. Carriage, motors, hydraulic pumps, saws, blowers.
How about your new pallet machine?
It got it too. So we actually moved it to our safe zone,
Which is a killer machine, guys. It's like awesome.
So
It is.
we had it moved and next to the office, and there's 4.5 foot of water in the office. Never had water in the office before. It's kind of on the high ground. So anyway, we just started. Luckily, my family's awesome, so we jumped in there Monday. My crew's awesome. What we couldn't get with a bobcat or a track hose, we shoveled, and then we started busting down motors. You just take the plates off, wash them out, replace bearings. So today, which is almost 4 weeks, we started actually back to producing pallet material.
A month of not being able to produce money.
Yeah.
Just spend money. Not,
Yep,
Yeah,
just
that's
spend money,
crazy.
clean up money. I've got a neighbor who is a retired electrician from Wilson Art, which, Wilson Art's a pretty big plant for people that don't know. He is super awesome. He's like a little genius angel that was sent. So he came up with his little meter and just started working, checking, so just to give you a rough idea, we have motors all the way from 5 horsepower up to 200 horsepower. And each motor has to have a starter. So if you've ever seen your breaker boxes in your home, imagine 4 of those is one starter box for a 200 horsepower motor. So it usually has fuses in them. Now, sticker price on a 200 horsepower motor plus the starter to start it is about $22,000. So, I mean, you know this. I mean, I'm just.
Oof, I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just one. And we have 200 horses motors, one for the grinder, and then one for the actual mill itself. And then the chipper motor, we actually had to have it sent off. And then just exhaust motors, resaw motors, just motors everywhere. I learned more about electrical stuff in the last 3 weeks than I really wanted to know. But,
Sure.
We did it. So, but we're back at it. And, time will tell how much damage was actually done, because just the amount of sand and mud and grit and just a mess. There's for some, for a lot of people that had this actually in their homes, I could not imagine this mess in your home.
When I was driving by up to the studio, I drove by an apple orchard that was right by the river. I don't know if y'all probably came that way too, because we came from the same place. But you could see up the tree line where the mud stopped. It was beautiful green leaves and red apples, and then slate gray all the way. Every apple, every leaf, if it was still hanging there, was slate gray, mud, whatever color you'd call mud. Ecru, I'm not sure what you call that color. Somebody will make a Sherwin-Williams color out of it and just paint the walls.
Yeah.
Sherwin-Williams making a Hurricane Helene color.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to be very popular.
Yeah.
Dried disaster.
Dry disaster. Yeah.
So in anywhere where there was water, there's sand. It's just hard to believe that water or sand will get into a electrical panel box that's 7.5 foot up on the side of the building. But it will, I mean, and it gets in the contacts, it gets in the, any of the moving stuff in these boxes, you have to get that out or it will not fire. It will not.
And it has
contact.
a smell.
It has a smell, and it smells. And now it's like you guys were saying earlier, it's a drought. So everywhere where there's sand, now we have sandstorms every time.
Yeah.
The wind. It's just, but I mean, hey, all that's in. Like I said, time will tell. Like the amount of damage. Like we may have a motor go out 6 months from now that just absolutely burns up.
Right. Some could be new, and yeah, its lifespan is reduced by 90%.
Exactly. And, it could have been going out before the storm got here, and we're going to blame it on the storm. But anyway, so.
Now, explain to the people, and I'm learning this as different business people have called me, how does your insurance, or does it help? Does FEMA help businesses, et cetera?
We're not that far yet. I know we don't have, so all our stuff, we only had insurance on stuff that we still owed for. So all our stuff is paid for. And luckily we don't have any big bills, or we'd probably, like a lot of businesses, just have to close up. So we don't have insurance like flood insurance, because they probably would laugh at us because we're technically in a flood zone. So insurance, no. FEMA, we're looking at it. We're keeping all our receipts from all the stuff that we bought, and then we'll kind of address that maybe later, I guess. I don't know. I know we've reached out to FEMA and they have contacted us back, but as far as that's as far as it has gotten. So we're just kind of in a waiting process to see what they will help, to see if they'll pay, like lost time, or, some of the fuses that we bought for the big disconnect box was like $600 a pop, and we had to buy 3 of them because they were all blown. And then, so, it's just, expenses we wasn't expecting to have. As far as our pallet customers, they've all been very understanding. Some of them was actually flooded out too. They have reached out and got pallets from other vendors, and they said, some of my vendors, just one right across the street, actually on Shepherd Street, we've been in business for 30 years. So they said, you just let us know when you get back to going, and we'll keep getting pallets from you. So it's, it's just stuff like that.
So check also with your state small business association.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. Oh, that's cool.
That will. They're actually helping more businesses than FEMA, where FEMA actually helps more individuals.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying they won't help you, but
Yeah.
I'm saying I would make contact with either the Henderson County Small Business Association or the North Carolina Small Business Association, and see what their additional help is as well.
Oh, that's good to know.
I've seen that they've been, like, for me as a business owner, they offered like a SBA loan, low interest loan. But the red tape that you got to go through on these SBA loans is very, very rigorous. And to me, after I got about a third of the way through it, I was like, I'm not interested. I think I'm just going to sweat this one out, and just make it happen.
That makes sense. So,
What about you?
But we're back at it, and just real quick, like my brother works for a construction place called Tanoka, and they were actually the ones that helped in Swannanoa replace the water line.
Yes,
that you guys have heard about. So
I saw pictures of Riley up there. With with that big track hoe.
Yeah. So that was pretty awesome for them guys to do that because a lot of people just you flip the water switch on and here comes water. So what happened up in that area was
right, Tiziana.
Yeah, the North Fork Reservoir is what he's talking about.
Yeah, so Jake was up there for that, and he said that it looks like a Israel or something, like a bomb had literally went off there, and so there's a water line, a 36-inch water line, which is 3 foot, that runs from the reservoir. Now the reservoir is a 300-acre, pretty much a lake, and that's where Asheville gets their water. So, and he said there was a section totally gone that was like 150 foot long. So they replaced 180 foot of that pipe in like 2 weeks, I guess, to get water back
That's
on.
Screaming.
That is getting it.
Yeah,
because they actually had to build the road back to put the water line. It wasn't just like, I'm going to drag a water hose across through here and hook the water back. He pushed off thousands of shot rock, thousands of tons of shot rock just to build the road back to get water to those guys. And 80%
those
of
pipes
Asheville,
aren't they're not little PVC pipes.
I think some of the pipe come from Texas. It's not like just running out to Lowe's and buying just pipe. I think there was a couple places it was literally like drove in or flown in to get to where they're at. So.
It's a 3 feet around.
Yes.
I'm 5 feet tall.
Yeah, so the
let's
pipe
think
is
about
almost,
that. Do you know what I mean?
So and
You're short.
I know.
You also
But I mean,
gotta,
like the pipe is almost as tall. You know what I'm saying? Like that's huge,
Wow.
like a giant pipe.
You could crouch and
crawl right through it.
180 foot.
Have myself a little
almost,
Shawshank
180
Redemption moment.
180 foot replaced, and like
if I felt like it.
And it's kind of like what I was talking about earlier with logs and other stuff that's just disappeared. Where does that go? Like where'd that pipe go?
Where did it end up? Who knows?
Where did it end up at? So
Somebody's house.
Yeah.
But and you've also got to
Lakewood.
imagine, not only do we have flooding from the river, but now when that section of pipe is gone, you have 36 inches of water coming from one end, coming from the reservoir before they can get it shut off. And you've got the backdraft that is also creating more flood. So it's unbelievable. I mean, we've always been in a safe zone here in Western North Carolina, and we've never seen anything like that. And, it is cool to have a house on the side of the river or on the side of a mountain. And now
Until it's not.
Until it's not, and our great grandparents would have been like, why are you doing that? Why are you building your house next to the river? And we've never seen anything like that before. And it's just happened. And people want to compare it to 1916, but you can, but you can't, because think of how many more rooftops do we have that are not soaking in ground? How many more millions of asphalt for roads
That's
that we
absolutely
have?
true. I didn't even think
of all
about
the
that.
runoff that we have, concretes and buildings. 1916 is completely different from 2024.
There's
Right.
a lot more soil. there.
Yeah. So I mean, but it's just, there's so much water at one time. It's crazy. But hey, we're all here, and that's the main thing. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's my little story.
Wow, that's something. How about you, Teasy?
Well, same in terms of our family's safe. Nobody's, everybody's accounted for. Our house is standing and it's fine. We did lose a giant oak tree that fell across the street from our house that we had to saw up and take care of, but it fell away from our house. So that's good. My mother-in-law, a tree landed on her house in Tryon. She lives right on top of the Packlet River Valley, and that valley is just a mess of debris. I mean, a house across the street from her, she lives on top of a hill, hallelujah, but down the hill and across the river, there's just a little floodplain there where the Packlet River is. Beautiful farmland. A house was like picked up and moved down the street and like deposit. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just nothing but just debris and just mess. And so she's got to have her house. She's got to have her roof replaced. And, FEMA was helpful with that. So she did get approved for FEMA money for a roof because, like, that, if they're more interested in helping out individuals, or like that's their first line of attack or whatever. So Dylan's got to take a week off of work and go out there and put a new roof on his mom's house. But he's going to probably do that up pretty soon. But our house is okay. We live in the part of Asheville that was serviced by that North Fork Reservoir. So, we lost water and we didn't have it back for 21 days. We lost power and we didn't have it back for a week. And, the hardest part, of course, was the first couple of days when we didn't know what was going on, because where I was in West Asheville, there was a lot of rain on Thursday. And there was a lot of wind and creaking, moaning trees. But it wasn't until Friday morning when the power went out and the water went out, which I said, oh, that's happened before. This can be a rough weekend.
Yeah.
It's gonna suck till Monday, And then the oak tree, when our giant 30-foot oak tree just and I heard the baby cry because Dylan jerked her away from the window, and it scared her. I was like, uh-oh, that's not normal. And then I picked up my phone and I had, it said SOS only.
Yes.
And so Friday,
and then
Saturday,
the part
Sunday,
of the time when it said nothing, when there was nothing, you couldn't make anything. That's the scariest thing I think I've ever experienced.
Absolutely. Because I couldn't get in touch with
can't call
anyone. No one could
911.
get in touch with me. And I didn't know if everybody was okay.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
She had no idea. Nobody did.
What was going on. And I also had no idea how massive the disaster was outside of my neighborhood. I have 2 small kids. I immediately jumped into make it okay for them mode, right? So I'm putting up candles everywhere, and I'm, we were so lucky. The people that live behind us, Scott and Crystal, are just the most amazing human beings on the planet. And they are, Scott can handle just about anything. I mean, he is definitely on my apocalypse list, right?
Yeah.
Short list of people that I'm
I
going to
met
call
a few
first.
of those people that they're definitely on my apocalypse
His
list.
apocalypse rating is 10 out of 10,
Yeah.
right? I've got maybe a 2. I'm funny and I can cook. That's about it. And so...
And you're 5 foot.
Yeah,
Come on.
right, yeah. I can crawl under
You can get in
stuff.
small places.
Yeah. But I mean, he had a generator, so he gave us an extension cord that we plugged in our fridge, and everybody in the neighborhood just brought their stuff over to our house. And I just got a camping stove out, and I was making meals for 12 and 13 people every day.
Wow.
I was making 2 pots of coffee, carrying one across the street to Kelly, who takes care of her mama that's got dementia, and one across the street got in Crystal. We were just snap to.
It's funny because when I called Tiziana because I was heading over that way, she was like, "Come on over, we're making shrimp and steak or something." I
Yeah.
was like, "What?" Of all the time. It's
I know.
Because it was going to go bad. You have to
Well, that's the thing, right? Well, so what happened
Shrimp
too
and
is
steak
that
hibachi,
so
come on
our
over.
house became like a hub,
Oh, yeah,
for
what's
all
that,
these
shrimp?
people, and because there was no power for such an extended period of time, Aldi was standing out in the front of their property just giving food away.
Wow.
That what I told you I was making, Earth Fair was giving that out because it was this is going to go bad. Let's just get rid of it. And of course, we still had a freezer, so we had all these people. We were just cramming stuff into our fridge and freezer, and just my friend Becca, the neighbor, we would just kind of figure out what we were going to make every night. And every morning, I was waking up at the sun would rise, and my house is just trashed.
Did
Just
you
paper
feel like Little
plates and
House on the
cups and-
Prairie?
you know what?
Waking
I
up
don't
at the
think I felt
sunrise?
quite as gracious, because I would wake up and my house was like a wreck because I couldn't clean any of it. I was
At night,
making
'cause
these
it's dark.
giant meals, and then it was dark, and so first thing in the morning, and I'm I was telling somebody, I was like, I feel like a little African village girl that can't go to school because I spent all day trying to get water for my house. I had to
That was
take
me.
these
You told me
buckets.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, find water, boil it, clean all of the kitchen, and it's just when I'm done with all of it, it was time to do it again, and we had big fires every day because we were trying to clear the brush out of the neighborhood. People couldn't get out of our road because of that oak tree. So we had to get that figured out. I mean, it was just a lot. And my neighbor across the street, her mama's got dementia. She doesn't walk anymore. So I go over there every single day and I help her get Sandra out of the bed. And I go over there every single day and I help her get Sandra in the bed. And we got to put her on the toilet. We got to, give her a bath. So I was, trying to get stuff to help her take care of her mom. Fortunately, the power went out with her bed in the position that she needs to be in to sleep.
Oh, God.
So hallelujah. But she
Think
could
about
sleep
stuff like that.
But you don't think about stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's so it was just pure survival mode for a week and a half. And I mean, I would wander around my neighborhood trying to catch a signal, and all of a sudden, I remember this one day, I all of a sudden I got 42 texts and 9 voicemails all at once.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was like, what? And it wasn't, and we went out Saturday. So on Saturday afternoon, I'm like, okay, I had heard, okay, there's going to be a bit of a storm. So I'd gone out and got toilet paper. But I didn't think about like the cat food, and we had caught wind, right? Because other people had skittered out and like come back to let us, give us news of the world. And so we went out to me and my friend Becca.
Town.
We went out to town. Well, we heard that the Brevard Road was still open. One Ingalls on Brevard Road, which I don't even have a lot to say good about Ingalls. That's a whole different situation. The way they've handled this disaster, in my observations, has been pretty atrocious. I will try not to shop there if I can help it from now on.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other conversation. But they had this one that was open. So we went out there. I mean, and it was like a terrible game of Frogger just trying to get there. I mean, trees down and like, and light poles everywhere. And the scariest part about it was like, we went out and there was not a single emergency vehicle, not a cop car, not an ambulance, not a fire truck, not a Duke power truck, nothing. Nothing. All the lights are gone. All the lights are out. And there is nobody doing anything about it. And I was like, that was the part that was the most eerie. We got to the Brevard Road Ingalls, and they were only letting, it was a long line to get in, 10 people in, 10 people out, cash only. And when we were standing in line, all of a sudden the voice came over the loudspeaker, and I ran up there to listen, and they were saying, just when you get out of here, just get your head down, get in your car and leave, get home as fast as you can. Everything's fine. But there was an incident involving a gun. And we were all like, whoa. So now I don't know how to explain this to anyone. If somebody's a Gen Zer out there that can figure it out, let me know. My phone, Verizon, had no service for days. I would turn it back. People are like, oh, turn on, data roaming and then turn it on and off again. I know that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not that dumb. But like, it just no service. But my friend had AT&T and her phone worked fine the entire freaking time.
Yeah, AT&T lost it Sunday, I think. But from what I heard, there was an actual landslide that took out a Verizon tower.
I heard that took out 2.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so that's why that was the problem then.
That was, yeah.
Yeah, because she was fine.
And then with the shortage, well, not shortage of gas, but places that were closed, the only place that were open was Sheets for gas. And then, so you take away cell phones, gas, and power.
Oh,
it's total chaos.
And
water.
And water.
Exactly.
So fast, right? So she got her phone out, and when I got back there and I told her, I was like, apparently there's an incident at the gas station, and like, we're not in. So she like hopped on like Facebook or Twitter or something, and the manager of the gas station had to like defend the place and like had shot an AK-47 into the air to chase people off because they were running out of gas, and everybody was like, crazy.
I heard about fights at pumps. Yeah.
Oh, it was wild.
Yeah.
And so, for me personally,
I just want to know why there's an AK-47 there.
I'm sure it was an AR-15.
Or something. Maybe it was an AR-15.
We
I
can't
still
have
wanna know.
AK-47s.
Yeah, but AR-15 at the Ingalls, the
AR-15.
English manager needed his AR-15 to protect.
It's gonna look like an AK-47 to somebody who doesn't.
Who doesn't know? And I didn't see it. That was the report that we had read. So thank you for Sarita Edgerton for correcting that. So this is
For
why
the
she's.
record-
I could be wrong.
This is why she's in government, not me.
An
But-
AK-47, much better apocalypse weapon.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And at Publix, they had bazookas. Okay. So,
That's why they still have food.
Bam,
Yeah,
you got it.
AKs, you can fill them with mud.
RPGs,
Yeah.
that's fair.
I've seen a tank out there, but anyway.
Well, we scuttled back to the house as fast as possible, and like that night too. Like it's like you don't know dark until a million people are out of power.
Yeah.
You don't hear anything.
Anything. You don't hear nothing. Yeah. It is like that. That was some little house on the prairie.
I bet the
right
stars
there.
looked really good at night.
If I wasn't terrified to go stand out in my front yard because people are shooting guns and shouting in the distance, I mean, it was that first couple of nights. Dylan wouldn't let me leave the house without my gun in the car, which is not me. That's Dylan. That's not me at all. But I was not allowed to leave the house without a revolver,
Yeah.
And so, then by Tuesday, we had pieced together information from other people. And by Tuesday, we got cell service. And then by Wednesday, we got the internet. Or not the internet, but Wi-Fi signal started to kick back on. And so I could sometimes, during certain times of day, like first thing in the morning or late at night, I could see what was going on. And that's when I started kind of like piece things together. Dylan was out of work for a week. Or no, Dylan's out of work for like a day, but he's an electrician. So they had power in Weaverville come Monday even. So municipal power was restored in Weaverville. So he was out on service calls for residents and stuff, helping fix things up like almost immediately. My little brother lives in Tennessee. He came down to visit when he was working in McDowell County, and the pictures he would show you. So his company is like he works for like an industrial landscaping company. So they build Dollar Generals and build the retaining walls and stuff like that. And they hired them immediately. Like he was messaging me Friday morning on Facebook, like, hey, are you okay? And I was like, why? What's going on? He's like, we just got a FEMA contract to start clearing roads. And I was like, what? Because that was, again, before I had really understood what was happening. So he came down and was showing me pictures that would just make you, I mean, cars with big old orange signs on them and DB on it. And, they found, he's personally found a handful of bodies.
Wow.
Yeah. And
damn.
yeah. And I'll say this too, like there was like, this is going to make me cry. I'm going to try not to because I don't want to but when they were out there working, he worked the first 48 hours without sleeping. He was clearing state roads. They show me photographs, look like a driveway. Because it was just, how like a driveway will be all, an enclosed driveway will have all the trees and limbs on the side. And then just all dirt driveway except for where the tire tracks are. And I was like, oh, where's that? He's like, that's a state road,
Wow.
Crazy. And he came inside and he had a bucket. And I was like, what's this? And he like popped the lid open. And while they were out there working, a bunch of people came by and started handing out these like Lowe's buckets to each one of the workers. And we're like saying thank you and God bless you and stuff like that.
I know.
So we popped open the bucket and it was like sweaters and snacks and a hat and a solar shower and a card that was drawn by the 3rd and 4-year-old classroom at like Boger Baptist Church.
Oh.
And like me and my brother just like burst into tears. And it was like this little Andy wrote my little brother a card and said, we appreciate the work you're doing. We know you're working so hard. And like, I don't know where that church is, but it touched my little brother's heart. He felt that in his bones, and so did I.
What was the name of the church?
It was
Boger?
I think. Boger Baptist Church.
You can't remember how to spell it?
Boger, yeah.
Okay.
I Googled it, I think, at some, you know what I mean? But it was just like, because it's scary. He's driving a skid steer down roads and across and around bends and stuff that like, he showed me this one picture and this skid steer had actually like tipped in and had fallen out. And I was like, oh my gosh, were you in that one? He was like, no, my friend was, but like, it's terrifying work, So he's been doing all of that, but us, it's the hardest part again for me as always, and is just how do I make this as normal as possible for the girls? Nighttime before we had power was really scary because it's so dark and that's so unusual for them. And I was trying to I had a little red tea light candle holder that reflected into their room about the same color and brightness as their normal nightlight. So I would light that every night. But, their whole routine is just, they can't take a bath. They can't brush their teeth. Like, they can't do all these things that are normal. We started figuring out how to give them a bath in a Blue Igloo cooler where you would just heat up buckets of water and pour it in there so they could at least have some semblance of normal, But Aurora is 4 and she hears everything. And she's starting to listen and hear things. And she's waking up every night with nightmares because she's afraid the water is going to sweep our house away. Mm-hmm. And we're having to explain it to her. But then we drive down Reams Creek to go to my friend's house to do laundry because we have water, but it's foul. It smells like farts and it's brown. I'm not washing anything in that thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better than others, but it's like we can flush a toilet now. And that right there takes a lot of time, gives me a lot of my own time back because I'm flushing the toilet for 4 people.
Right.
God. And so that gives me a lot of time back, and I can at least rinse the toothpaste down the sink now,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't wash anything and I certainly can't wash the girls. But we're driving down Reams Creek and it's like a tractor trailer slammed into the side of a shipping container.
Yeah.
And the road to the bridge to this housing development is just completely washed out. And Aurora's just sitting in the back seat going, Mama, people lost everything. And I'm like, yeah, they did, sweetheart. And she's like, some people even lost their fridges. I said, yes.
Right.
Some people lost their fridges even, honey. You know? And she's she was hugging trees that fell down and saying, I'm so sorry you had to die and stuff like that. It's been really hard trying to navigate this with her.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, honey, did our house sweep away in the river? And she's like, no. And I said, that's because we're on a hill. Honey, even if that exact same storm happened, our house would not sweep away.
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah, but what about the trees? And I said, I know, honey. And all of the trees face away from our house. That's the way you look at their roots. Look at the way that they lean. They don't lean toward our house, okay? And I'm just trying to explain all these things to her and trying to but we're exhausted because she's waking up screaming and crying in the middle of the night, which of course wakes up the baby. I was up with Jubilee last night from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. because you interrupt a 2-year-old sleep cycle like that, and she can't. And then, of course, everybody's super cranky in the morning, and everybody's resilience is low. And I don't want to eat that for breakfast. And I'm trying not to lose my patience, whilst also still trying to figure out how to wash myself and them and all the things, and cook and clean with limited water. I'm set up all these infrastructures. So I had like a minor meltdown. Not even minor. I had a total meltdown yesterday. Today's much better, but that's the hardest part, I think, now is just trying
that you may not be talking about that I got to witness from you is understand that she's a mother of 2, she's a wife, she's doing all this work. And then I'm watching online how she is stepping up to the plate and turned her own garage into like a facility for distribution and taking stuff to apartments and people that are in need. So there's that side of you too. I know you wouldn't mention it, but that was awesome. And you were on TikTok and informing people when you got a chance.
That was really good too. And I wasn't going to get into all of that because it's like that feel very much like tooting my own horn. But like
you're not tooting your own horn. That's what you did for your community.
Yeah,
it's important.
It was good that I got a little traction on TikTok when I had made 3 social media posts. I couldn't get in touch with anybody. Nobody get in touch with me. I didn't have reliable signal. So I made an Instagram, TikTok, and a Facebook post just so that as many of my family and friends as were in all of those places could get the information. I went to sleep with 179 followers on TikTok, and I woke up with 11,000, excuse me.
Yeah. 11,000, but still that's a lot.
I woke up with 11,000 and I was like, whoa. And all of this information, people start flooding in. They're like, what, let me send you money. And I'm like, nope, absolutely not. No. What I'm going to do is, and I contacted the 2, I've done work with ABCCM, Asheville Buncombe Christian Community Ministries. They're a great organization, and they have consistently focused on serving the underserved in our communities. They have a wonderful veterans program. They have a wonderful it's called Transition Village. It's a homeless shelter for women and women with children. And they are in a relationship with AB Tech, so these women can get an education before they get out. They do a ton of really good work. So I had reached out to them. This guy's name is Corey Holloway, and he gave me a wish list. So I started just posting that on TikTok, and then we found out that some low apartment complexes in our neighborhood weren't getting services yet. And so that's when I just started all these random people. I was just like, bring it to my house. And so then me and my friend Keisha drove half of it out to this one apartment complex and half of it out to this other one. But by the time Thursday rolled around, all of the supplies, that's where the cavalry had arrived.
Yeah.
So I think I did all of that. That was all Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And by Friday, I think of that week, the day we got power back, that was the day that everybody kind of started getting power back. And that was where there was there was a lot more centralized locations for food pickup and for water and stuff. And so I took a step back from that piece after that. But that was a really interesting period of time there. I was able to just direct people towards organizations that were doing a lot of really good work and hopefully, hopefully bring some stuff in. I mean, it's hard. I mean, I was out of work. The hardest part that's weird, and people don't think about this stuff when you move over to a cash-only society, right? We have WIC, and we depend on WIC for milk, bread, eggs, cheese. We get $76 worth of fruit and vegetables in WIC, and that is a huge part of how our family survives, right? We also get $40 a week to spend at the local farmer's market on fresh fruits and vegetables. I meal plan and structure my entire meals around that. I use every last ounce of that WIC. How can you get that if you can't run a card?
Right.
And how can you get that? How can you utilize those tokens when those farms are not showing up at the markets? And
because they're underwater.
Right. Or they're recovering
or they can't get
they
out.
Lost some stuff. Yeah. Right. And so, so it's I mean, it's or WIC only, well, you can't just walk into a grocery store and buy anything. First of all, you can only go to certain stores. And Ingles was cash only for the longest time. Ingles and Food Lion are the only 2 stores in my neighborhood that I can take my WIC. I can't just go any old where. It's not like food stamps. And then you can only get certain brands. And so when those brands weren't available, then you can't use it either. And they weren't.
And they weren't.
And so there was a couple of weeks there where we were like, ugh, but then we got the $750 from FEMA And so that sort of like was like, okay, that recouped my loss of work, and that helped, you know, kind of recoup the cost of how much extra money we were spending on things that we're not used to spending money on.
Mm-hmm.
And then people gave us like baby wipes and diapers. So then we could kind of like reallocate that money towards like the milk, cheese, bread thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it all worked out and everything is fine. So when people were like, I want to send you money, I'm like, I do not feel comfortable with that at all. We are okay. There are a lot of people that are not okay.
Mm-hmm.
Give them your money.
Right.
So, you know. There was one lady that like insisted on Venmoing me $40. And I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay. It was very sweet, but yeah.
That's killer.
Yeah.
Well, so Sarita, what about you?
Well, it's nothing in comparison to the story that was just told to me. But Spartanburg was relatively okay. Ella and I were sitting up that morning, Friday morning, and we heard a crack, and I was like, did you hear that? The dogs went crazy. Went out to look out the front window, couldn't see anything. And about an hour later, we heard boom, and our tree split down the middle. That's the crack we heard, and then it hit the road in front of us. So otherwise, it would have been in her bedroom if it had gone the other way. So for all intent, and then we lost power, of course. We were without power till Thursday after we were without internet, but we had water because we have city water, and we had hot water because we have gas, and the gas lines were good. So we actually ended up hosting some of my son's college kids because their families are in Dallas or in Raleigh, and they had nowhere to go, and they had no power, no water. They were displaced college kids.
Yeah.
So we had them.
I didn't even think of that.
We had I had a friend. She gives tours to like school groups, and she was in Boston, and she couldn't get home. She spent one night in Boston at the airport. She spent one night in LaGuardia, and she had put on her Facebook page that she was going to have to. Where could she go near the Greenville airport to get food? And I was like, I'm coming to get you. And she stayed with us for 2 days until her husband could get out of Horseshoe and come get her. But at least she had a hot shower. She had no clothes because all of her luggage was checked, and the checked baggage went to Asheville. It ended up in Charlotte. So she had no clothes. So we ended up having to find a DG and a Target they had a generator at Target that was powering their checkout stands, and that was it. So you could actually use a card at the Target. So we were able to get her some stuff but we had got her home. And when we sent her home, if I were a prepper, I would have had a lot of water at my house. But I'm not, because all my stuff was lost in a boating accident in the middle of the lake. But I'm just kidding. I did.
I was like, why did you have all your prep stuff on a boat?
And all my guns,
confused.
and all my guns too, all completely gone in a tragic boating accident. But I sent her with every gallon jug of water that we had for our prepping home with her. And she texted me a couple of days later, and she said, you know, my son works for the sheriff's department, and he was able to we put him in the trunk of his sheriff's car, and he was able to ferry them across the river to people who hadn't had water who hadn't had clean water. They were crying since then. So that was a story that she told, and I'm very thankful that I was able to send what little I had. I was cooking on a camp stove for a lot of people. That was fun until it wasn't. And then
That's for sure.
But man, the college kids were out by the pool playing games with their headlamps on. It was so fun to hear that in the middle of the night, which was like 9 o'clock. And but the scary thing my sister-in-law lives in Fairview. My husband's sister lives in Fairview, and we couldn't find her. We couldn't get a hold of her
For a long time.
Till Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean that was.
And we were texting.
Days.
Are you alive? Please text us. Please, just anybody we could think of. Her husband, my nieces and nephew, her ex-husband. Everybody didn't hear from her. Finally, on Tuesday, she texted, "We're alive. We're in Burnsville." All we had heard about Burnsville is that it got wiped off the map.
Yeah, it's been decimated. Yeah,
my husband's been out there working. It's rough.
So, she actually told us the story. She had to climb to the top of the mountain with Moses to get a signal, which I thought that's pretty biblical. His name was Moses. The guy that walked with her to the top of the mountain was named Moses.
Oh, I was like, is that her dog?
It's a real person.
Some random person.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, at least we knew she was alive. So my father-in-law was going up there. So my son and I went up there to her house and met her. And she lives in Fairview next to Cane Creek. And the water line was at my head or higher on the second floor, and the mud line, and everything she owns is covered in mud, diesel, slime, and mold. And we're in there. This is the Friday after, and mold's already growing everywhere. We had to wear N95s, but the ones who had some breathing issues were the ones with the respirators on them. But even then, you could not.
That picture of you with yours on it was gross.
Yeah, and I had it done because I kept touching it because I couldn't breathe.
Right.
You have to go outside.
Yeah.
You had to go outside every few minutes. We were in there about 30 minutes. She looked at me and she goes, I am so tired.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't even imagine having to sift through the contents of my life.
Imagine.
Her oven, when they first went in there, her oven was open and a dining room chair from the dining room was in the oven.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And her diesel tanks were emptied. So that was everywhere. And you could smell death. We were it's right near the entrance to Chimney Rock.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, just past her house, it was cordoned off with people with big guns and big Humvees, and they were, you couldn't get in Chimney Rock. But she and both my nieces and my nephew are okay. It was a total loss. She had flood insurance, so she'll be able to recoup some of what was lost. And the house in Burnsville, when we drove up there, that little holler was virtually untouched. There was one little piece of the road out just past where you go up to their house, but otherwise it was the most spectacular view. Everybody's house was okay. There weren't any trees. I mean, Spartanburg looked more like a war zone, but just over the ridge.
Yeah.
In Burnsville, Spruce Pine was disaster.
Yeah.
It was, and you could see the vultures or whatever, buzzards or whatever, circling, and
Turkey. I think we have turkey vultures.
Turkey vultures, yeah. And of course the helicopters all going constantly, just helicopters back and forth. And so that was just being thankful that she was okay. She has a family that can help her, and that the children were okay. The little school that my nephew goes to, he's not little, he's 10th grade, was moved 6 feet off its foundation. So they're having to use the upper school, which is where he goes, for the little kids and the big kids. So they have to kind of alternate. That's a minor inconvenience, but we had other family members who lived in the Black Mountain Girton area. Didn't hear from them. She has a 4-month-old baby, and we were getting so worried. And so I had seen on Facebook, Twitter, X, about the United Cajun Navy. And I called them up and I said, here's her address and here's the coordinates. And they rescued her by helicopter with the baby, who hadn't had formula for about a day and a half, 2 days.
Oh, my God.
And, but rescued her, took her to the hospital in Hickory, and they're in Raleigh, and they're safe. The mother's safe. Then the grandmother that was also with them is safe. We don't know about their house. I don't know if it's livable, but that was an interesting story. The United Cajun Navy, boy, them Cajuns, when I go to Louisiana next time, I'm going to buy them a drink, because they did a lot of good here in Western North Carolina. So those were 2 pretty heavy stories. And my husband's a land surveyor, and their crews their main office is here in Asheville. And if you think about the kind of damage that was done, people lose property lines. Roads have to be resurveyed. So you think about the road that your brother just cleared.
Yeah.
In order to rebuild it, you have to resurvey everything. I mean, it all has to be done. And they sent my husband a message. They said, we just came upon a dead body. What do we do?
Yeah.
And so they were coming upon that. And one of his coworkers, her dad is a mortician in South Carolina, and he was called up to help because the coroner was just absolutely overwhelmed. And some of the smaller counties don't have coroners. And so they were saying that you saw the damage that was done to homes and cars and trucks. Imagine what that does to a human body.
Yeah.
And she just said it so matter-of-factly. You know, she'd been in that business for her whole life, you know, before she's gone into the surveying line of work. And it's just been to hear those stories.
Outrageous.
And yeah, and I've been very careful not to share random crazy stories unless I heard from the person firsthand.
Right.
A girl I went to high school with was helping out people in Buncombe County in apartment buildings, building these little toilets out of Lowe's buckets. And I watched her do that, and I'm just amazed. I was like, I went to school with that girl. I'm so proud of her. Jenny Bradley, she's an artist. If you know her, support her music.
It's gone.
The River Arts
gone.
District, I drove by there.
Oh, yeah.
Just places I knew that are gone, just gone, and whole towns.
Yeah.
People in the whole towns are gone, and it wasn't so bad in Spartanburg, but there are widows and people who have no family, and they were without all the same time that we were without. And you know, I think a couple of lessons that we can learn is we can't go cashless.
Yeah.
And we need to know who our neighbors are.
Yeah.
We cannot isolate ourselves like we have been doing. We have to know who is in our community, because when the power was out and it was scary dark, it was our neighbors. There were no police coming to get y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have it that bad here where I lived, but there was no police coming to some of these places.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't even call them. And there was a little bit of time in Spartanburg where we couldn't call 911 either. And we got a notification, hey, 911 is down. I was like, nobody have a heart attack. I mean, that is, what do? You just die.
Yeah.
You know, and that's 125 years ago. That was probably the same thing. You just
Yeah.
Wow.
you just died. So, yes, some valuable lessons learned, I think. But
Oh, man. So Billy's going to have to leave us.
I got to slide out. Before I want to go, though, I did talk to some of the line guys, and shout out to all those guys.
Yeah, the linemen that came in.
Yeah, I mean, so when
Canada.
Yeah, so the ones we talked to were doing our road in the sawmill, and they were from Indiana. Hadn't been home for 12 days because they'd went to Florida, got Florida back online, and just come up here.
And then they went back to Florida.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, those guys, I mean, you know, and they even when we were cleaning up the sawmill, they drove by and they offered us water, and we're like, no, we need to give you water. So hats off to those guys. Big shout out to those. But I hate to run, but
We love you.
Yeah, man.
Rick,
Yeah, it's great to see you.
Yeah, man.
to see you too.
Glad you're okay.
It's great to see you, really.
It was really, it was really eerie because I texted the Burros thread, and the only response I was getting was from Carter, and
Yeah,
I was like, it was just me and him, and I was like, where are they?
Yeah, we'd reach out. I mean, that's kind of the hard part from us. And I mean, I know my turn will come, but when you reach out to your friends that you know that are there and you get nothing back,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's nothing, because I'm getting, my reports are a lot more quick.
Yeah, we were getting a whole
fresh,
bunch of stuff.
A lot of stuff. You're hearing about what's going on, but you don't know what your friends are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
And then when we finally got something back, and then I think I heard from you, Rick, at first, and then Sarita, and then it was like Parson, and I think Billy come in, said we're fine. It was a quick message, and then you would message out again, is everybody still okay? Did you need anything? And it'd just be kind of dead. But anyway,
All
that's
right.
cool.
Well, Billy, go on.
all right, I'm out of here.
Get on out of here,
Happy
pal.
Halloween, guys.
Yeah, happy Halloween. You too.
Happy
See you guys.
Halloween, you little wiener.
You know, that Billy is one good-looking guy.
He sure is.
I feel
We
like,
don't call him eye candy for nothing.
listen, man, every time I see him, it's like I think that he's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
He
Big,
is
strong boy.
He is. You know,
He's been lifting a lot of stuff.
yeah,
in
he's been
that-
lifting
in and out.
motors and
Yeah.
sand
and
and
lack
dirt.
of food.
Lack of food.
He is
Bless
very
him
cute.
because, like, I cannot imagine having that much equipment just
Oh, yeah.
screwed right now.
Well, just
It's
to hear
awful.
him the night before, we spent all day moving it up to higher ground, so we should be good. And then when we finally heard from him, we lost everything.
I know.
right.
After all that work, like,
Yeah, that's really hard.
But he always said, we're alive.
yes.
We have our family.
Yes.
We have our home. That's
Yeah.
all that mattered.
That's
and I'm so
right.
glad.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
know, he's always had a great attitude.
I did
And they're
want to tell
hardworking
y'all
dudes.
when my sister-in-law that Thursday night, she saw that Cane Creek had risen to the top of the bank and was spilling over, which is about 5 feet. She said, we're going to go up to Burnsville and where her husband had a house up there. And it's a whole divorce situation I'm not going to get into on here, but she moved her car over way past where the last flood came in 2004, whatever. When we got back there, the river had picked it up, filled it full of mud, and moved it 30 feet back.
Wow.
An
That's
SUV. It wasn't like it was a Prius.
like
it was, or a Toyota Tercel. It was an SUV, and it just, like it was a toy, just picked it up and moved it. While we were standing out there, a bear decided he was going to cross Cane Creek and come up onto the bank. I was like, what do I...
She's mimicking pulling out her pistol.
Yeah, well, which I wore because I had heard,
Yes.
Yeah.
you know,
It's
be
pretty
very
rough up here,
careful.
yeah.
And I wasn't even concealed carrying. I was...
Open carrying. Yeah.
Yeah. And, but there was a guy walking along the bank. I was like, what are you doing? I'm looking for something. So I don't know what he was looking for, but he was a bit creepy. But he must have, he got a bucket, filled it up, and went somewhere with it. So he must have found gold or something in them there hills.
Mm.
But the
Yeah.
bear was not having any of it. He just looked up at us and just kept walking.
Yeah.
But she had stuff in her yard. She goes, I don't know who this stuff belongs to. And she said, I'm missing a whole bunch of stuff that was, I don't know, like tables and chairs and stuff that it's just gone, just down Cane Creek somewhere.
Man.
You've seen those pictures of Lake Lure? It's just, well,
It's
I'm
there.
sure it's not that way anymore, or maybe
Yes,
it's
they
less
haven't
so.
even started.
They haven't even
Yeah.
started. It's
It's
just,
just a debris field.
it's the lake is a debris field. There's
Yeah.
people on a boat, and you're just like, how is that boat even moving around?
There's people on a boat, and if you listen to their conversation, they're like, do y'all smell that?
Yeah.
There are bodies under that debris field.
That's
They
what
haven't
they-
even started to
Yeah.
find
They
yet.
said that they're trying, like, they were way after a while the bodies will come up, but the problem is they can't.
There's nowhere for them
Yeah.
to
They
come.
have to dig them out.
Oh yeah, because they have to get the stuff out of the
All
way.
the stuff off
Yeah,
from
it's
the
really
above.
hard.
I have heard, and this is anecdotal at this point, but I don't think it's far from the truth, even if it's not literally true, this is the worst natural disaster that's ever hit U.S. soil.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah,
It will
the
surpass
worst.
Katrina
Yep.
when they get the body
Well,
count.
the thing about Katrina was it was a worse storm, but it was a quarter of the size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was inside its circumference, whatever. It was a faster storm. It was a windier storm. It was
faster moving too.
it was faster moving, but it was a quarter of the size.
Well, I saw what
did
you
it
had
s-
said about the geological
Yeah,
event.
it's now
Oh, yeah.
it's now a geological
It's a
event
geological
because
event.
it's had 1,000 landslides.
Yeah.
1,400 or something.
Is it up to 1,400? So it's no longer a weather event, a meteorological event. It is a geological event, and it has been a once in 1,000-year meteorological event, and now it's once in 1,000-year geological event. And there is and I wish I knew who that guy was. There is a geologist who has done a geological study of Hurricane Helene and why the mountains gave way, where they gave way, and how it flowed.
It was a
almost like a
fascinating.
Pyroclastic cloud.
I'm gonna put on this episode. I'm gonna put the link to that.
Oh, I would love to
She
read
sent
that.
it.
I sent
it's
it to
not
their
reading.
group.
Oh, you did.
It's a
I
video.
didn't get a chance to watch
should watch it.
It's
It's
so hard
really
for me
good.
to do
So
anything.
Very
but get
informative.
water.
I sent that video, and then right behind it, there's a guy named Mark Honeycutt from this area who has
Yep.
been climbing, hiking these places, and then using his drone.
Yep.
And he did
Oh,
took
I've
that
seen some of
video,
those. Yeah, they're really amazing.
the geological video, and he droned and hiked the video.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually saw what the geologist was trying to show us from the satellite map. You saw it from a real human perspective.
Yeah.
So if you can put those back to back, that's absolutely, it'll tell you, because the number one thing you hear people say is, why didn't they just leave?
There was
This has
nowhere
never,
to go.
This has
Well,
never happened before.
there's
We've never
nowhere to
had,
go.
and there's nowhere to go.
and it's
And you've
one of-
been less safe on the roads.
They didn't evacuate us.
we knew there was, but nobody even knew. Like
Right.
land. Okay, so I knew this was going to be extra bad. Like
Yes.
people are saying, like, it kind of surprised me. I knew it was going to be extra bad because, like, they were talking. We had that one front that was heading north, and we had the hurricane coming up. And they all turn counterclockwise. So the left side of the hurricane, which was spinning south, was going to hit the side of that system that was pouring on us already.
Yeah.
And it was going to like kind of just kick it up. So it moved real fast over land for a while because of the way they hit. So you knew there was going to be like a lot. I mean, nobody could have foreseen this, but you knew it was going to be bad. But did one person here think, oh, landslides are going to be everywhere?
They're going to take
No.
out people's entire
No.
homes.
Yeah,
neighborhoods.
Nobody
Chimney
thought-
Rock is going to get swept away by the river.
That,
No,
See, that was seeable. That was foreseeable, actually. Because 2004 was way
Rocky
less
Broad
water. And
took it
that,
out.
and that river hopped and destroyed houses in 2004. It was way smaller. Right, it wasn't
Yeah.
that many at all.
I didn't
But in
think the
2000
entire city was
when
gonna be
people were
swept
like,
away.
yeah, when people
You
were
know?
like Chimney Rock was destroyed, I was like, I remember when in 2004, you could hear the boulders rolling down the river in Chimney Rock if you were on the right side of, if you were on the side of Hendersonville that was near it.
Yeah.
You could
You could hear it, yeah. I lived out
And
Sugarloaf.
so yeah, when Chimney Rock, I was like, "Ew."
That's whenever the restaurant Krabby Bill's was taken out. Do you remember Krabby Bill's?
yeah.
But this time though,
Oh, it's so much worse, like 10 times
yeah,
worse.
like it took out all of them.
Yeah, all
you
of
know,
them.
like the
I was watching. There's
Tiki
certain,
Hut and all
there's-
that stuff's gone.
There's certain meteorologists I watch on X, and he kept saying, "Y'all, this is going to be bad.
Yeah.
Y'all, this is going to be once in 100-year storm." He kept saying it over and over. So on Wednesday, I went and filled my cars up.
Yeah.
That's what my mom, and then, fill the bathtubs up, that kind of thing. But I didn't do that because we have public water. But
So does
my
that
husband did not. My husband did not go fill his car up. So day 5 or 6, his car was almost out of gas.
Yeah.
But we had no other way to charge any of our
Yup.
stuff. It was in the car. So, our church and several churches who had power, who got power back quickly, were allowing you to come to take a bath or a shower, not a bath, and charge your equipment that you had. But we were able to do it in our cars for all the people that were at our house. But by the time we got power back, just from running my car, my little car, half a tank of gas. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but my
that's
it's
a lot
little-
just from sitting in the
it's a little
driveway
car
charging up.
charging
Like a
Yeah,
week.
charging up batteries. Yeah.
yeah,
like a week.
That's what it takes me to get to Columbia and back from my house. I tested it the last time I went to the State House.
Wow.
So that's a trip to Columbia back with no power. So, and that's
Did you
just
run it with the
charging.
hood open?
No, should I have?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
no,
the
I didn't.
heat.
Yes.
Never thought of that.
I don't think of that.
Never thought
If you
of
leave
that.
it, if you'd sit in one spot for idling for a long period of time. Now, understandably, it's got electric fans that'll cut on and off, but just in case for safety wise, you leave the hood open so that it allows that extra
It'll
heat to
just
get
cool off a little better.
I did not know. Thank you,
I never
Rick
would have
Carter.
thought of that.
I did not know that.
Your apocalypse rating just bumped up by
Yeah,
half
buddy.
a notch,
So
sir.
what about you, Rick Carter?
Actually, I
Did you
had,
skip Andy?
No, I'm going to go to Andy.
Oh, okay.
there was a couple lawn chairs in my backyard that flipped over, and I said, "Oh, we will rebuild."
Did you lose power?
Not at all.
Oh,
I did,
wow.
I'm for everybody. I'm 2.5 hours away from Hendersonville.
Rick is, yeah, he's devoted. The man shows up.
Yeah. So I'm being 2 hours have to wait, despite the fact that it hit hard here. And one of the bigger things that the meteorologist knew is the way that the jet stream was running that cold front. It basically grabbed like a tow line to the hurricane
Yeah.
and snatched it right up from the coast. And being that
And took massive amounts of water from the Gulf with it.
typically when we get affected by hurricanes coming from that direction, it's so much more slow getting across the land. By the
Yeah.
time it gets to us, it's nothing.
Yeah, it's lost all its power.
There's nothing there. But when you had a tow rope to snatch it up to us within like an hour, it still got every bit of the strength it had when it hit the coastline. So it didn't lose anything. And it had all the moisture that was getting fed by the jet stream. It
was a
made
perfect storm.
It was a perfect storm.
So, and then for Columbia, a lot of neighborhoods, there was a lot of power outages, a lot of internet outages because of heavy winds. There were some areas I did watch on one of my radars, and one of the guys that I watch, a kind of a shout out to his name is Ryan Y'all Hall. He's a guy that watches stuff. There was a tornado that was actually headed towards my house from the direction it was coming, but it dissipated, and before it got near enough to me, Augusta got hammered hard.
Aiken
Was really hammered hard.
Greenwood
area was hammered hard. And like I said, the Columbia area with a lot of big trees, they were hurt hard by power. For me, amazingly, the power flickered a couple times around 7 o'clock, and then that was it. Other than the heavy wind, I was fine. And so when it was all said and done, again, I'm thinking of you guys because you're up here, and I'm getting all the reports from everything that I hear that, what's
how bad it is. Yeah.
I mean, that it's dark, and I had some somebody that was giving me basically first person information of what was happening, especially in Black Mountain and Santa Noa, and kind of the thing where we all know disasters because we see them all the time on TV and movies. We've lived them. If anybody can remember a show that it's only been one season, it's called Last of Us. It's on Max. It's a really good show, worth watching, and it's an apocalyptic kind of TV series, and it kind of shows some realism of the fact of, it's spiced up a little bit with zombies to some extent, but the more struggle.
Thank God we didn't have to deal with that.
The struggle that was more impactful in the episode was the people, each other.
That's definitely about people.
And so when you're getting first, you're getting videos back of driving through those areas, and it's literally you look like you're, like it was said earlier, it's Iraq or it's a war zone. And then you're getting the report from the local people that, as they're trying to bring supplies in, it's like, look, don't be here when it gets dark.
Right.
I mean, are you carrying? And
people being rescued on mules,
Yeah.
donkey. I was like, yes, the asses are winning, but like horses, we're transported back.
yeah,
We're transported back to mule packs.
Yeah.
In some of these places. I mean,
so it was pretty. I really skated this one. We got affected a few years ago in my area.
2015?
Was it 2015? But the
27?
rain that hit our area from another system that basically was like a fire hose from the coast all the way into Columbia, and it affected multiple areas because local ponds and smaller lakes aren't used to that water, and it just busted a bunch of local water, and then it just flooded areas. And typically in the same thing, like up here, you're technically in a flood zone because of the way the tributaries and those little ponds feed off, but you don't.
But practically, you never see it.
It's
not on the top of a mountain, you're not.
It's
but
not
when your house slides out from under you,
when the local ponds, like 3 of them, break loose because it's rained for.
Oh, that's an interesting. So all of that flood water that came from here destroyed a bunch of stuff on its way to the ocean.
Yes.
It had to go all the way there.
It has to go there.
And it did what it does. All the way down.
Our major river in Columbia, it was the highest I've ever seen it. It was all the way up to the bridge that crosses over Saluda River, and I've never seen it that high. It was all the way up to it, and you could, the same way when we talked about the trees on the way here, it was for at least like a mile from the river, you could see water halfway up trees.
Yeah.
Because it had overflowed the banks.
Yeah, man.
So, I'm trying to make light of a story because of my little, skip. But I did. I called you. You came down. I met you. Got you.
I'm going to get into that. I'm going to talk about Rick Carter.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm going to brag on you, bro, because he really helped us. We really needed it, and he stepped up.
And then, I work for a company that has a convenience store up here in town. We've only got one. We talked about doing more, but the local area to build in is a little difficult, a little expensive. But we trucked in a generator and got it hooked up and got the store operational. I don't know if I think everything, as far as I know, was operational as far as running cards and stuff like that. Because as long as we got power, we can manage the rest of it. As soon as we got it running that evening, somebody stole all the fuel out of it.
Yeah, stole all the fuel out of the generator, so they couldn't run the store.
That was running.
Oh my gosh.
That was running. You know what? I I'm not quite surprised, I guess.
So, I mean,
So crazy.
but that's the.
People were still in generators.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, it's all right. So here's something else as far as the thing that you have to be concerned of when you're thinking about prepping. When you have a generator hooked to your house and things get apocalyptic at nighttime,
Turn
You're
it
the only
off.
one.
don't have it running.
Yeah, because it's
We
loud.
turned it off as soon as the sun set. We turned it off, and we didn't open our fridge until the morning light. You know, like
There's-
because it is like you're sending out a bat signal.
Yes.
You know, turn it off, y'all.
We had we didn't have any of that problem wise, but we had 4 generators in this neighborhood, and all of them were running it all. And we were just like, it's so loud.
Oh yeah, well there's that
Well,
too.
they do have some newer ones now at your local Harbor Freight that are designed to run. They're really quiet running, even though
I know the Hondas are some of the Hondas
Yeah.
are really
well,
quiet,
in
but
order
they're
to
expensive.
in order to run a big house, Honda doesn't make one big enough.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
So there's a line called Predator that's really good, and it's quiet. The only thing I don't like about it is so well insulated. Consideration the car situation with an engine running with a lot of this insulation on it, it's super hot. Can it stay cool enough and last long enough? But it is pretty quiet. But that's when you're prepping and you're in a bad area, especially in those. And when we heard it was, when it went apocalyptic, it was like a couple hours. It was within hours when people just started looting and doing some. I mean, they don't. There's some
panic, man.
Yes,
People just panicked.
Well,
We didn't
people didn't
panic.
have food and water.
But yeah.
Now,
Or
some people are just bad people, but some people are just desperate to
Yeah.
get water and food.
yeah, people just panic, and then in that state, you're in your fight or flight. You're not thinking with your
That's true.
frontal lobe at
Something-
all. Like you're
Listen,
just
I
trying to survive.
was ready to go because I live in a constant state of fight or flight, and I have since I was little, and I'm a prepper. So I was getting texts from people like, "This is your time to shine," and I was like, "Rock on!"
Yeah, man.
It's so
y'all.
funny. I'm not a prepper, but I am a mom. So definitely we do a certain level. I do a certain level of this is what I get every month. And this is what I get every single week. And I do it on Monday or Tuesday. So we actually had plenty of food and water. Literally, when I went out that one Saturday, all I needed was cat food and milk. Those are the 2 things I had not picked up,
I had David Curtis from Berean Bible Church. He called me and he was like, "Are you guys okay? Do you have enough food?" And I took stock and I was like, "I have food to last me until February." Because I keep canned foods, dried goods in my basement. I always have.
Yeah.
And so
Same. I'm not even a prepper. I just buy too much stuff that doesn't spoil.
exactly, I buy canned goods.
Yeah.
I go to Sam's, and if I wanted, we could eat green beans and corn for the next 6 years.
Yeah.
I got enough of that, But
and
anyway,
corn twice.
I think Tiziana's going to have to
Yeah.
roll out.
Yeah, I got to go. My neighbor's
you didn't get
in her 60s, and she takes care of her mama who's got dementia, and mama doesn't walk anymore, and Kelly weighs a $110 soaking wet.
You're gonna
Yeah.
go help put
I gotta
her
go.
to
Yeah,
bed,
every morning and every night we
Man.
put
Well,
mama on
thanks
the
for
toilet
coming.
and put
Yeah.
mama.
Yeah,
Thanks for
yeah, it's good
coming.
to see you.
Glad you're
sharing
safe.
that.
I'm glad you guys are safe. It's good to see all of you.
Tiziana,
I know.
Yes, it
Tiziana
is.
texted me earlier today, and she was like, "If I come down early, can I use your shower and washer and dryer?"
Yeah.
I was
Heck
like,
yeah,
of
man.
course, yeah.
I just I cannot listen to me. And I'm just going to say this because this is not filthy, but everybody needs to understand this. When you send out a communication, all right, and it says the water's fine, but don't get it in your eyes or your mouth, it's not going in my vagina.
Right.
You guys,
It's not going to mine either.
listen, it's
My private areas.
you have to take care of that. Like
Yes.
I've got 2 little girls. I'm not going to soak their nethers in that.
Was that a
if that's
Freudian
the deal?
slip? I thought it was a Freudian slip. I meant the genital area. Not that I have a vagina.
Yes.
It was a Freudian slip.
Mine
But I mean,
either.
just in terms of the way our bodies are constructed
Yes.
differently.
Yeah, but that
Women
stuff's
have an
got a weird
open sexual
smell.
system. You have, well, I mean, I hope it doesn't have a weird smell.
No,
Rick.
the water.
the water.
I wasn't talking about me.
Bam!
Rick, there are certain things you don't need to say on the radio.
Yeah, that's right.
No, I'm just kidding. But and so I'm not generally as a rule a
bad.
very
So bad.
conspiracy theory person, but I'm I don't trust my government right now. I don't trust the city's communications about the water.
Dang,
I'm not
I
going to
wish
use
I had
it.
my "Don't Trust the Government" shirt. I have
I know.
on my back.
I saw a comedian one time that was like, okay, I get that you don't believe all of them, but you don't believe any conspiracy theories. You
Oh, I've
just
seen
think the
that bit,
government's
yeah.
batting 1,000, and I'm like, no. I mean, but
You've
I
heard
mean,
of Iran Contra, right? Because that was a real thing.
Yes, it was.
yeah. And so I mean, so the communication every single night we get a phone call from the City of Asheville Water Department. And every single night, it is the exact same recording, not edited and not updated every single night.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not doing anything with this water. I will flush a toilet with it. And like after I've washed the dishes, I will use it to like rinse out the sink and get all the stuff done. We wash our hands off in it and then immediately use hand sanitizer.
Right.
You know, that's the most I will do with this water. If like if I've changed a dirty diaper and I need to just wash my hands, I'll wash them and then put hand sanitizer on. I don't let the girls use it for anything. We don't brush teeth. We don't do nothing else with it, you know?
Yeah.
And so like I'm every single week I'm trying to figure out how to wash.
Have you tried to put a match
6
next
loads
to
of
it?
laundry and wash three people, you know, because I mean, I've got my laundry, my husband's laundry, the house laundry, which is like towels and sheets, and then the girls' laundry, which I have a potty training toddler. She changes her clothes twice a day.
If I get to lose power or water, and I've said this whole time, it's power every time. Every single time
Yeah.
I will keep water.
Yeah. So I've heard there's a really nice laundromat somewhere in South Carolina, somewhere your way, Sarita.
We have a couple in Spartanburg.
But there's one that I've
But
heard
my house
of.
is always available.
I know. Well, see, that's the other thing. I have to pack I have to be there for the day because I have Jubilee naps.
Bring
And
it.
so it's just this, I'm going to have to come down there for like the day. Is the thing. Okay, because that's the hard part. It's like people, like today, I took my kids out, but they'd had a bad night last night. So I made a plan. Okay, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to do my laundry. I'm going to wash myself and the girls. But then everybody had a horrible night. And everybody woke up late and everybody was cranky and I'm rushing around and I'm getting the kids in the car. And then I get all the way out to Weaverville and I forgot the fucking laundry.
That's how you know
And
you've
I
been
just
stressed
like
out.
burst into tears in the driveway. I mean, I was just like, you know, I just burst in because you got to understand, I got to pack snacks. I got to pack water. I got to pack, you know, the kids, don't forget Jubilee's pacifier. Like to go anywhere with 2 small children under 5 is like an endeavor. And you have to bring all of the same amount of crap if you're going somewhere for one day as if you're going for 10 days.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so, I mean, I'm doing this. And again, like I'm washing my husband's laundry. I'm doing all the stuff I normally do, but it's like times 10. Plus I can't even wash a dish without like hauling a bucket and a radio flyer wagon down to the end of the street and filling
And
it up.
Is
you know?
it fair to say that even the way that you travel, even that's been obstructed by certain roads and stuff? Are you
No.
No? Because mine
So
has. Like my
that's
travel.
that's one
I
thing
can't go
I can
normal
say.
ways anymore.
Yeah, that's one thing I can say
Oh,
in my
still?
neighborhood and
Still,
area.
yeah,
Wow.
still can't.
Yeah, that hasn't been an issue. All the ways that I get from point A to point B and all the normal stores that I normally shop at, everything's up and running. The only thing is we don't have access to the farmer's market the same way as usual. And that's one thing that did hit my kiddo, my 4-year-old, when I was trying to explain what happened because we went to the River Arts farmer's market every Wednesday.
Yes.
And there are people there that she knows.
Knows.
We knows, Lee's One Fortune Farm. We know Crawford from Beeswax and Butter, or Lavender and Beeswax and Butter. We know people. Then we love them. And I remember I was telling Aurora, I was explaining it to her. And so Beeswax and Butter is a local bakery. And the guy that runs its name is Crawford and him and his family. And they like source locally. They make fresh macaroons, everything. They're very nice. He's a very nice person. But my daughter knows Crawford because he's the cookie man. And she, like when I was explaining to her like what happened, I was like, remember where we go for the farmer's market? You know, we park under the bridge and we go see all those people. I was like, well, the river swelled up and it washed all that away. And she looked at me and she goes, is Crawford okay?
And you can't say anything, but I don't know.
Well, fortunately, I had seen his Instagram because they have a GoFundMe. And so I said, honey, Crawford's okay. He wasn't there when it happened, right? He's going to be fine. And the following Tuesday, when we went to the farmer's market, she saw him and she was like, oh, Crawford's okay. My child is 4.
Yeah.
And it was all cash only. We didn't have any cash. And we went over there and I was like, Crawford. And he's like, you know, he knows us, but I mean, like, doesn't know how important he is to my daughter.
Right.
You know, that the Stroop waffles make her day, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, Aurora just wanted to check on you. She was actually really concerned when she found out that the River Arts District flooded, you know? And he like knelt down and he was like, I'm okay, sweetheart.
Oh.
And she was like, can I have a cookie? And I was like, honey, we don't have any cash. And he just like gave her a cookie anyway. It was like so heartwarming and so sweet, you know?
Yeah.
But like, so even that road, we drove up that way coming back from, you know, UNCA because they do have a farmer's market on Wednesday. Again, that's a big part of our family is the $40 a week because we have Medicaid. So we get $40 a week to spend at Foods and Vegetables. So we did go to the relocated one at Steinmart. And when we came back, we came through the River Arts District and like got to see everything. So it's like even the road is open. I mean, I can't drive down Biltmore, but I can go over the bridge and come down that way. So none of the roads are like really that obscured. Like everything seems like pretty much back to normal, except for like, which is what's also so awkward because it's not.
Yeah. No,
It's like normal, but it's not. And so it's like you just have this weird sick feeling in your stomach all the time.
I've had people message me like, hey, I want to come help and things like that. And I'm like, okay, that sounds great. I just want you to know, like, right now is not the exact right time, but there is going to be a time when your help is really going to matter. Like, it's going to, like, all of us in our community are working together. You guys want to come from out of state. Now's not the time to come from out of state.
No, yeah.
There's no place for you to stay. My house is booked up. Everybody's house is booked up. Like, but come later. And they're just like, I want to come. I want to get there before it's all done, they say. And I'm like,
oh, you don't know.
It's
going to be a long
years of rebuilding.
Time.
Years of rebuilding.
This isn't next week.
So trust me, you come over here and you work for 3 days. We really appreciate it. But it's going to keep. There's more. There's more.
I want to.
Let's say bye, TZ.
Yeah. Bye, TZ.
Bye, TZ.
Why do I have my voicemail? Oh yeah. This is the resource from the city of Asheville. They get it 7:30. This is their nightly call, telling us that everything is exactly the same as it was yesterday, and they've changed nothing.
Wow.
Thanks, Asheville.
Well, drive safe.
Yeah,
and we love you. And it's good to see
I
you.
love you too. I'll see you guys soon, I'm sure. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
You can just go and stand under the faucet and
bye,
just
TZ. Drive safe.
Thanks.
Bye.
I'll see you.
So, Andrew, Aaron Bishop.
I want to touch on something that she was referring to, and especially for when you live in a town that basically is either near or kind of centrally located to devastated areas, and this is kind of a shout out to our people. If you're paying attention to the news, you have to be mindful of those areas as well, because one of the things that happened to Columbia and the surrounding area is that everybody that didn't have power, didn't have fuel, didn't have water, didn't have supplies, didn't have a grocery store, they went to somewhere that did. Yeah. And Columbia was a place.
Spartanburg was, our stores were completely wiped out.
They were gone, wiped out. And so they moved along. Like
26 South was the only way in and out of this area.
Only way out.
And I want to say this out loud. The area affected in this disaster is the size of a middling European nation, right? Like, people don't think about that. It's the size of many countries.
I mean, again, so
the people have to get food somewhere, so then we would have to go a little farther out than normal.
Well, I mean, one, we're trying to prep as well, and then on top of that, you if you're not paying attention, you start to go out and then you try to get things, and you exacerbate the issue because now you're buying up and it's doubling down, and the people that are affected. And it's the best mindful way to think of it. They're like a locust field that's moving through, trying to get what they can to take home.
Right.
And then when I went out, and I have the ability through my company to look at our stations and start looking at fuel supplies at stores, and then I start noticing that one, I have to work just like at least for my job I was still working. But then for the same thing, for when I go from an area, if you're coming into that area, you have to be like a prepper in the same way, because you can't get supplies when you're there. So whatever you go in there with, you need to have everything with you in order to get out. So you have to range yourself. And it's like one of the things I had to call my boss and say, hey, I said, we got to be mindful that if we're out riding around, a lot of our stores are low on fuel. Mm-hmm. I've looked at a bunch of them, and they didn't have much.
And to piggyback on that, where I live in Spartanburg, about 3.5 miles is where they fill those tanker trucks up with fuel.
Yeah.
And it was without power
for days.
For 5 days. Yep. That's why there was no gas, because those tanker trucks could not come in and fill up and go back out and go where it was needed, because they had no way to get power. They had no way to pump it. They had no way to do any of it. So they're just tanker trucks sitting.
Yep.
That central area feeds Charlotte. It feeds that area and feeds Charlotte fuel. So everything comes out of Greenville, Spartan towards that way. We, as for Columbia, get everything out of Augusta. And
Augusta
it was out of power. Had nothing. So you not only are,
I don't think people outside of the mountains understood. We didn't have power either. We didn't have fuel. Augusta got hit real bad. You don't think it did, but it did. It had no fuel to power the fuel to fill the trucks to get it back to where people needed fuel for their generators.
Yeah. And we
it's
didn't
real
know.
desperate.
No, we couldn't
You
get any
can't
kind
get
of
any-
outside information to know what was happening.
How many people are going to now have weather radios that they
That's
can
the
get
one
some kind
main
of
thing
outside
that
signal?
I did not have was
90
a weather
90
radio.
98.9 out of Greenville was a lifesaver for many people because the way they broadcast into the mountains. And so people who had weather radios or ham radios or whatever could actually, some phones have radio where you can get an FM radio on your phone. Even without a signal, you can pick up an antenna, and they were able to hear what was going on through that. And they were calling in. I live in Black Mountain. I live in Fairview. We were hearing stories from people who could get their ham radios, their CB radios, truck drivers, all kinds of people who were like, y'all should see this place. We need help. And they were calling out for help.
Yeah.
And that's when, it was immediate.
Yeah.
It was immediate. The United Cajun Navy was in here that day.
Yeah.
They had staged from the hurricane in Florida. They had followed it up, and they were just staging, waiting to come in and do all their rescues. And helicopters, people with helicopters. I didn't know that many people owned helicopters.
I know.
But just these small, tiny little helicopters that
Dude,
were
they
just
were
dumping.
showing-
It
we could see them
actually
everywhere.
They were
became
dumping water,
a
just-
problem because air traffic control.
I heard.
Yes.
They were down,
Was
and
down.
even when they were up, people weren't reporting, and they couldn't handle the load they were getting. So there was actually so much traffic in the air that
Yeah.
it was a dangerous problem, which
Dangerous.
is the source of some of the stories about people being like, "I'm trying to fly my helicopter in," and they told me no. Well, it was because
You can't get here.
Well,
There's too many
I don't
things
know
in there.
entirely how truth in the truth on that part of it being as dangerous, because most of the area was shut down. Period. As far as regional air traffic, I followed some people that a guy that I followed for a long period of time. His name is.
I know
you
they
can
didn't
follow
want
him.
every Tom, Dick, and
Cleese
Harry flying
McFarlane.
their helicopter arbitrarily around the area.
Right. Yeah.
To some extent, but they were getting to people that couldn't, that were trying to, that
You have
didn't
to-
have anything.
you have to balance-
And they were
you have to
bringing it, and they were
balance those
flying
things,
in a
man.
median.
You can't just have chaos,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
and you have to balance.
there's a couple stories that kind of suck balls. There's a couple of them that suck balls, but not all of
Because
them,
there's
you
people
know?
they're trying to go
like families getting split up and then them not being allowed to go back and get
and
the
told
other
they were
half
going to
of
be
their family.
arrested if they went back.
Yeah, like those stories they suck, but there a lot of it. You're right though. We can't just have a bunch of people flying up in here.
You want
you know?
you want everybody to have that sort of freedom, but that's
I
just
know,
not the
yeah.
real world.
It's just proof that we're not ready for flying cars.
Oh
what
no,
if-
that'll never happen. That's a terrible idea. It'll
I
never. be
wish
a
it
thing.
wasn't.
Yeah.
Because I really like the Jetsons.
Me
So what
too.
about you, Andy? So you had shared a little bit about what had happened and with all of us on a previous episode, but so kind of like give us an update. Where are you?
I mean, we're fine. Okay, so the thing about Hendersonville is, even though we're right up here in just about in the thick of it,
Yeah.
this is a plateau with no rivers. We have some creeks,
Yeah.
and those creeks did insane things.
Yeah.
But they started as creeks.
Right.
Right. So, and we're on a plateau. The elevation change throughout the area of Hendersonville isn't that big because this is a flat little spot in the mountains. So compared to like Asheville or any other place, no rivers, not much elevation change, at least across the length of the town.
Right.
So we didn't get the rushing water that would rip a tractor trailer in half
Right.
on a high power telephone line, which that stuff was so it was just, if you didn't live in a floodplain, and the people that did live in a floodplain, they were getting normal flood damage, not to minimize,
Yeah.
but they weren't getting washed away in Hendersonville. They were just getting all their stuff ruined by mold.
Right.
So it's a different, as close as we are, it's a different environment. So you just couldn't. I remember the first day, we could barely text already just the morning after. Or well, overnight, I remember I woke up and the wind was outrageous.
Yes.
And I just literally,
It was scary.
I was like, I have no control over this. I'm going back to sleep. I heard it and I was like, that's bad, but what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sit up and worry about it?
Exactly.
Yeah. I'd rather die in my sleep anyway.
Totally.
Right.
No, that's kind of the
should be real.
thought. Yeah. I don't need to know it's coming.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
get anything out of that. But the next day, if you had an iPhone, send as a text message became your friend because you couldn't send iMessages at all.
That was really
And
weird
of
because I was
course
like, why am I getting this?
Yeah, no iMessage.
It took a little minute for
Yeah.
me to figure it out.
And even then, of course, the way the service was here, we had
Sketchy.
it the first day, and you could like text, but
Once
you'd have
those
to try like a
towers
bunch
started
of times.
sliding down the mountain,
Yeah, it
done.
was gone. So I had talked to my mom a little bit through like terrible text messaging, and I knew that they had a tree fall on their house, but I knew that they were okay. And then we had communications eventually went forever dead. So I tried to get across town. I knew I wouldn't be able to because I've lived here a long time. I know that when it floods, it will cover at some point every crossing point from this side of town to that side of town.
Yep.
So there's no way to get across. But I tried because, I don't know, because I had to kind of.
Yeah.
But flooding wasn't even the issue because there were so many trees you couldn't get anywhere. You could never get.
With my nose, I was breathing into the mic.
I thought somebody
and it
was
sounded
snoring.
like there was a snoring or a thunder. Sorry.
It's Bobby Thunder. So I hopped. By the time it got beautiful, right?
Yeah, really fast.
It got beautiful.
Yes.
So I hopped on my bike and just to see if I could get across town on a bike. I knew I couldn't, but I figured it was worth a shot. And I rode around and took pictures and stuff. And it was like, lift the bike over trees and, there's running water, not going that way.
Yeah.
And of course it was much worse than it usually is. The park, I have a picture of the basketball nets on the park, and this is hours after it
Is this
stopped
at Patton
raining.
Park?
No.
Jackson.
Hours after it stopped raining, it's like you can see the hoops, but there's just like a couple feet under the hoops.
Yeah.
That
place
see.
always floods, but it was really bad.
Right.
Well, Papa's and Beer had it up to the ceiling, up to the
Yeah.
roof,
They did.
and that hardly ever flooded.
I know.
Yeah. Well, it was like everywhere that floods was flooded 10 feet more than I've ever seen it.
Yeah.
It was exceptionally more. And then it was eventually, like in a day or so, I was able to get across town on the bike. Still couldn't get across town in a car. And so I started going to my parents' house to help them out. Their living room was and is still smashed, like literally an oak tree.
It's like
Probably
6 foot diameter. maybe?
not quite. It's a little bit less than if I hold my arms all the way out. It's probably like that
60
big
inches.
around. Huge.
Yeah.
They have a brick house that just smashed the front corner of their house off, which it's all piled in their living room. They had some neighbors that had this giant tarp, and everybody showed up and put the tarp over the biggest hole. And eventually I came out later and put tarps over some smaller stuff, but their neighbors were there first because I couldn't get there, and they did a great job, which the thing everyone will tell you, people showed up.
Yes.
Every neighborhood.
Everybody
Everybody
worked
showed
together.
up.
That's right.
Yep.
Everybody. It was so, I love it.
Me too.
I
No
love that so
differences.
much.
It gave me so much hope in my heart, where I had been wondering, would people do?
I'm
To
an
me,
yeah.
to me, it felt like, and you remember this because we're all old enough in this room. 9/12/2001, where everybody was going out and give blood, and you would see people in the street, and you'd say, "How are you doing? Did you know anybody who was lost in 9/11?" You were helping one another, even though it wasn't quite like this. But that's sort of the feeling I got when I was seeing people help each other in their own neighborhoods. But it goes to the point: we need to know who our neighbors are, because if something happens and you can't get to your parents, at least in your mind, they have good neighbors who are going to help them until I can get there. And they would be glad to know that you had 4 generators and people helping you, and they don't have to worry about you. Even parents worry about their adult children too.
Yeah.
So, we have to know who our neighbors are.
I love that so much. And I'm really an optimist about people in a lot of ways. I really do. I believe in the essential goodness of people. Obviously with exception, but
Of course.
All right,
on
Anne
average.
Frank.
I really do. But it's nice to have it confirmed. Like, very
Yes.
nice.
My very first political speech I gave last Monday, And I changed up what I was going to say, and I said what I saw go on in Henderson or in Western North Carolina and in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and Pickens and Greenwood gives me hope, and that's what we need to cling to. You know, what can we do to help our fellow traveler on this earth? I would say brother and sister, but our fellow traveler on this earth, we're all here together. Y'all are all in this together. And people were giving the very last of their things to people, you know, and so, I mean, Tiziana doing that self-sacrificial thing where she's so stressed out trying to be a mom to 2 kids, but she's still giving food out of her garage and supplies out of her garage.
Like cooking,
just all of that stuff. You hear those stories, selfless people.
There's a lot of those stories. A lot of them.
And the dogs and who are rescuing, finding people. I mean, to me, that is a beautiful story, and
amazing.
It really is who we are.
It is.
It really
absolutely
is who we are.
And that's what
at least here. And I listened to a gentleman. He had moved here from California maybe 6 years ago, and they interviewed him, and his double wide had come off and smashed into another one and smashed into another one. And he said, I moved from California, and he had an accent. So I don't even want to try to do that accent. And he said, I didn't know my neighbors. He said, I knew my neighbors here. And he said, the way that they've taken care of us and taken care of my family, he said, in the wildfires, we didn't get any of that help from anybody out there. He said, but here, this is a different place. These are a different people. And he said, I am so glad that we moved here and have this community. This is home for me forever.
No, that's awesome.
And I was like, what a precious story about the kind of people. Mountain people are a certain kind of people. Yeah. And my people come from this, you know, Cleveland County, which is not quite mountains, but it's close enough. It's just the kind of people we are. The people in the upstate were the same way. The people in Columbia, when the flood happened several years ago, it was people mucking out other people's houses. You didn't know who those people were. I didn't know whose house that was. We were just mucking out people's houses. I mean, you just do because people are in need.
And that's what surprised me so much. I mean, like, we're a Bible study podcast, and so we're around a lot of other Christians. But I got to tell you right now, religion aside, it mattered not.
Nope.
Everybody was working together, and it was a beautiful, beautiful
You
thing.
mean to tell me that there wasn't theological sections?
We didn't have a single theological debate.
So there was nobody asking Republican or Democrat, red or blue, donkey or elephant.
Eschatology mattered zero.
Christian
None of
or
it.
Jew,
It was all garbage.
Islamic or whatever.
Nothing mattered.
What do you need and how can I help you?
It was beautiful.
And it was beautiful.
It was.
It really, really was. And it just gave me hope. I'm not as naturally optimistic as you are. So,
I know you're not.
but watching it, I knew that there were people out there, but I didn't know it was on such a grand scale. And I think it's precious.
Everywhere. Like I learned it right away. That day that I biked around town, I was just running into groups of people, like wandering their neighborhoods with chainsaws because most of it was trees down. And it was like, you couldn't exactly break things in the neighborhoods, but every neighborhood, not every neighborhood,
had a chainsaw posse.
Right. There were like chainsaw posses, and you'd stop and talk to them and to kind of move on. And so I saw a bunch of that like immediately just being out.
So
what'd you do, Rick?
Were
Rick's,
you done?
yeah, Rick's actually got.
Andy?
Huh?
Were you done? I mean,
let me try to sum it up because I kind of did it. I kind of did it up on the other one. I spent most of my time dealing with my parents' needs, and biking back and forth across town. Their car was also crushed. I gave them my car, so all I had was my bike. That's fine. I loved being forced to bike everywhere. I'm not gonna lie. That was a plus to me because the weather was beautiful, and I need the exercise. I need the exercise. So mostly I just got up and I puttered here until I got on a bike and rode over to my parents' house and whatever over there for half the day, and then kind of come back. And that's kind of roundly the schedule I kept. We lost power for 9 days. All of our food, we did the same thing everybody else did, just kind of like grilling. I grilled a leg of lamb.
Oh, wow.
It was the best leg lamb I've ever made.
There you go.
It was, so a lot of stuff like like everybody else had, where you're just like, and we had water, and it was a boil advisory at first, but just like this place, I have 2 patio heaters and a grill, and I always keep an extra. So that's 80 pounds of propane right there. And the camper over there has got 2 30-pound tanks. Camper battery was dead, so there was no power there either.
Did you possibly use the little solo stove that I got you for your birthday?
I
didn't?
didn't,
No.
because all we did was
Grill.
grill. I
was hoping you actually sat outside and used the smokeless
Yeah.
solo stove.
Well,
I didn't burn any of that stuff that came down until like 2 days ago.
Right,
I
right.
finally burned all the yard trash. And I had this like little camp stove, you know, and my parents didn't have anything. As a matter of fact, I show up at my parents' house first day and go in the garage for something. Hissing sound, smells like propane. They got a giant leak, so they got a grill. It's leaking like mad, so their entire garage is full of propane.
oh boy.
Yeah, I'm like, please don't blow yourself up. So they didn't have a grill, but I had this little butane stove and a
Yep.
bunch of butane, which was great. So I brought that over, and I still had my grill, so I could still cook. And now they had heat, and of course,
That's
eventually,
awesome.
when the stuff was running, I gave them my car so they could charge things.
Yeah.
Oh, that was one of the things I liked. I hate it, but there's so many things about this that I liked.
Yeah.
Main Street kept power because most of the lines up there are buried. And the first day I got out, you went by Main Street, and it was like everybody's out there just like chilling because they run out there, hang out for a while, and charge their stuff. So it was just like, boom, the sort of like downtown central thing you
Yeah.
wish that existed anymore. And I feel like it did, even as late as like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
That there was kind of a like that third place thing. So everybody showed up down there, and the Children's Museum had the Starlinks, and they were just letting
Yeah.
anybody use that. And so that place was always slammed, and there's this one coffee shop that's like pretty convenient to here, and they had internet on and off. And so it was just like, so you had a place to go where you were forced to be around everybody. And they were the same people that were, you know, being cool to each other the whole time. So
Yeah.
it's just, there were a, it's so terrible to say that because I know so many people died and they lost absolutely everything. And it's like such a weird being torn about the
It's okay to feel
positives
all
of that
of those
experience.
things.
Yes.
You know?
I know what you mean.
It's okay to feel all of those things.
Yeah, and the survivor guilt, because I have people that I know that passed away. And so it's brutal. It's brutal, you know?
So yeah, that was mostly it.
Yeah.
Just dealing with my parents riding bike across.
Yeah.
That's mostly
But not
it.
having to sit at a desk and record all day. So you have to get outside and get some breath of fresh air in your
Yeah.
hometown.
A mini
yeah.
vacation.
And I'm still I'm fine,
Yeah.
but stuff's still down because so much of the people I work for come from Asheville and stuff, and
Yeah.
I am just like, I am not mad.
Yeah.
I am not mad about it one minute.
I
Just
know.
to have, because I've been working so hard for like the last 3 or 5 years. I don't even know. Could be 30.
I know you're like 70, 80-hour weeks, you know? So,
Yeah, so I'm into that. Anyway, we
Yeah.
were well positioned at my house. It was fine here.
Yeah.
Awesome.
On that Thursday night before the storm, you know, we already had all that rain, and I'm an employer and I have 40 employees, and we have a night shift, and I was really concerned about them working that night shift. And our HR manager came to us and was like, "What are we going to do? A lot of the local area businesses are closing," and in those kind of situations, I've always wrestled with it because I remember being, you know, a father of children and having to work all kinds of jobs just to make ends meet. And what's it going to like to be forced? You know, I was told to go home and not be able to work and knew I wasn't going to get paid in my youth, you know, and I hated it. And so I'm like wrestling with that as an employer. And I'm like, okay, guys, here's what I'm going to tell you. I want you all to leave by midnight because I know the heavy rain hits at 2. That'll give you a chance to get home. But there is some flooding now. If you don't want to work, go home now and be safe. If you want to work, you have to leave at midnight. And the only thing is that I just want to make sure that you guys get home safe. But I don't know what's going to happen because, you know, I really didn't know the gravity of the storm. I didn't know how bad it was going to be. But, you know, these are a bunch of grown people. Make your own decisions. So that's happening. I kind of keep an eye on my phone. I usually go to bed like 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, but I stayed up later.
That's night.
Yeah. It's still daylight sometimes, when I go to bed. But anyway, I got the text at 11:48 that our shop had lost power and our employees were leaving, and they locked up the place and they took off. And then I saw some messages where they made it home. And then I just went to sleep. And then like an hour later, I hear like a train in my front yard. Is what it sounds like, a train.
Oh, no.
And so I get up and I'm
not
like,
a good sound.
it's not a good sound. I've never seen the trees act the way that they acted. I've never seen them like hard coming into the east, and then suddenly they're going to the west, and then suddenly they're coming towards me. And it's
I heard about tornadoes. You had one.
Yeah, we did. We had one that came across the backside of our mountain. But anyway, and I've never seen a tornado in the mountains other than
very
Etowah.
rare.
It's rare, but we saw one in Etowah years and years ago that took out a bunch of trees at the golf course, at Etowah Golf Course. That was a long time ago. And so it's very rare to have one touch down. And so I get up and I go outside, I'm looking at, and it's dark, but I'm just looking. And then my power started to kind of like surge here and there. And so this was at 2. So what I did was I went ahead and made like 2 full pots of coffee and put it in every one of my stainless steel like cups thing you can make. So I'd have hot coffee.
Prepping, baby, prepping.
If you I can keep it hot for hours and hours. And so I went ahead and made a bunch of coffee. And then at about 4:05 in the morning, we lost power. And then Holly wakes up, and I think it was like 4:30 or 5. She gets up because the wind is just unbelievable. And I went out, and we were sitting in the living room with our little lantern, drinking coffee, and all of a sudden we were boom, and it was a tree, one of our big oak trees. The top of the tree just broke off and came down and took the power line like off my house. Boom. And it what happens is it's got a guide wire, and the guide wire holds it, but it's holding the limb. So now it's just like everything's just like hanging like out. And then all these trees start falling and all these limbs start falling. So it's blocked my drive. And when it gets to be daylight, just enough where we see that there's this monster river that's coming down the mountain that went right through our driveway and took out.
Is that usually a river at all?
It's whenever it rains, you'll get some, that'll be the water. Okay. It'll flow through there, and it might make a little, 2 to 3 inch rut.
Crick.
You can fix it with a rake. This one became a 6 foot wide by 3 foot deep gully washing river. It took we have a gravel driveway. It took all the gravel and put it down across the street to the neighbor's house, and like went about 3 feet up their wall. Like that's where all my gravel went. So anyway, all in all,
you're like over there going, I'll take that
I'll
back.
take that one.
I'll take
that. I'll take
that
that
belongs
rock.
to me.
So anyway,
do you recognize this rock? I think this was mine.
This was probably mine.
Sorry.
No, but so we have a generator, and we have one of those external plugs that you can hook a camper up to on our home. It's just a 50 amp breaker.
I got one of those now too.
Yep. And so what I do is we just take a generator and we backfeed it. We shut off the main line to the house, and then we backfeed it into our panel so that we can generate, power for the whole house. But we don't, not all of it. We just select certain things. You only have 50 amps coming in. It's an 80 amp generator, but you're going through a 50 amp breaker. You can kind of get away with it. It surges it a little bit.
It's usually when things cut on and off at the same time.
Yeah, where it's a problem.
That's interesting. I never would have thought about, because we have one over there for the camper.
Yeah.
And I never would have thought about that. You could backfeed a panel.
You backfeed a panel. If you've got that plug, all you need is a generator with the plug to plug back into that, and you can run the panel in your house. I'll show you how. It's really easy.
Amazing.
You just have to turn off the main line, because you can kill alignment out there.
They also sell there's an interlock kit that you can put on your panel cover that will, in order for that breaker to be on to run the generator, you got to cut the main off, and you got to slide it over so it blocks one and opens up the other.
That's right.
So nobody can trickly mess
Mine
around
doesn't
with
do
it.
that. But I didn't want to generate 50 amps on the line for a lineman to touch and die.
Sure.
It's-
you just
external
turn it
feed.
off. That's easy enough. If you got to turn the generator on.
Right. So the next thing that, my wife's parents live down the hill from us, and so we just wanted to check on them. I took all the coffee down. We just wanted to check on them. Everything was fine. Several trees had fallen down. We weren't going to get out of our driveway until we cut all the trees up and stuff. And fortunately, I have a tractor that I just got back home. It's been my dad's for 2 years
Perfect
almost. And so I was able to get out. And when I did, I saw Cherry and Rodney Lewis, and they were driving by. This was really funny. The night before, when I went home, I took Cherry home. And she stopped, and her husband dips like I dip tobacco, and so does he. Well, I bought 2 rolls, and she bought him 1 can. And I said, you might want to get him another can. I mean, if it's going to storm, you maybe have won a couple. And she was like, he can go out tomorrow. And I thought, well, so we go out and we're standing in the yard and I see them drive up and they're like, he's got his chainsaw and he's cutting a tree. So he get out. I was like, where are you going? And he's like, I got to get to the store, man. I got some backer. I got to get some backer, man. And I was like, you do know this is like really crazy. But I wasn't aware of how crazy.
Nobody really knew.
No.
Not for days.
And so in the Hoopers Creek community, dude, like we lost our road. Like the road is gone. All right. So there was a culvert that was completely taken out. There was the bridges were taken out. We only had one way out, and it was on a place where the culvert had washed out and there was pavement only. Just pavement, nothing underneath it. And people were driving their cars across the pavement.
Terrifying.
And over time, it starts to, go down and go down and go down. Finally, this neighbor, he just had enough and he took his backhoe and just broke the pavement, which locked everybody in. Somebody was going to die.
Yeah.
Because it's like a 40-foot drop off. So we're all trapped. The bridge, the only bridge we can to get out, we knew we couldn't go across over Girton by Bearwalla Mountain. That wasn't happening because it was obliterated. And so Cherry and Roddy never got out. So whenever I found out on Lindsay Loop Road where the greenhouse, do you remember the greenhouses over? I don't know if you remember that, Andy. There was the hidden plant farm.
Yep.
Gone.
Oh my God, it's so low. That makes sense.
Gone.
Yeah.
Like it picked up the greenhouses.
Yeah, those things are,
they had
how much
an
could
entire
they weigh?
fall crop to sell. The river picked it up and took it all the way down, like into the next community. Like all of this stuff was ruined. Drowned all the plants, took all the business away. Like I said, with the bridges, and we still have this issue right now. Like I only have one way into my home, and that's Lindsay Loop. And fortunately, we had the Department of Highways came up, and all that road that was gone, they took it out of there and they just replaced it with gravel and made it a gravel road so we can get in and out.
Which is thankful we haven't gotten any rain.
That's right.
We're thankful we hadn't gotten any rain in this area and in my area either. So all that gravel stuff would have been
it would have been washed away.
It will be washed away again.
But now, like we've packed it so much because we've been driving on it for so long
that when
it rains, it'll probably stick a little bit better.
That'll be good.
But anyway, so all of our family, like all of my family was okay. It took me a couple of days to get in touch with my son and my daughters and everything, like just trying to find out everybody was okay. And fortunately for us, like we had just got a bunch of cash out because we were going to make a purchase, and so we had cash, which was good. But
I always have a bit of cash on hand. So
yeah,
that wasn't
a bunch of people will from now on.
I guarantee it. But anyway, my biggest thing is that I had generators, but I had to have gas, and no one had gas. And then I had a truck that I needed diesel fuel for. And what really sucked is that my guy, we used this truck for my business, a big truck that I got. Mm-hmm. They ran it down below 1/8 of a tank. So I couldn't get anywhere to get any fuel. I was furious. So we learned we had a big 35-gallon tank that only had about 12 gallons of off-road diesel, which you're not supposed to put in a vehicle, but we did anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's just a tax thing, right?
It's a tax thing, and it's a different color, but I didn't know that you could run them this way, and my wife did. She was like, put the off-road diesel in and let's go. But we knew we couldn't make it anywhere, so I called Rick Carter, and I was like, dude, do you guys have like gas and diesel and stuff down there? And he's like, yeah, I think we're good.
So I went to the station that's literally like a mile from my house.
Yeah.
Bought every bit of diesel they had that I could get.
Yeah.
And I ran it empty.
You did, and you had there was 20, what did you bring me, 18 to 26 gallons? Something like that.
17, 18 gallons.
But we couldn't make it all the way to him, so he had to meet us in Prosperity, South Carolina. And that was the day I talked to you. We actually got in touch with you, Sarita.
And thankfully at the time, I wasn't sure even if the station that we were going to had power, had fuel.
I know.
I was literally just coming to meet you to put fuel
fuel in my truck so I could go farther south.
Yes.
Because we had people like with babies that didn't have diapers and didn't have food.
I cannot imagine some communities.
Other things that I never thought of. There was a woman that was a next door neighbor that had all these horses, and she hadn't got her feed yet. So she didn't have feed for her horses. No hay. And it's like, what are we going to do here?
One of the communities is, and the other parts that you missed too, there was assisted living home.
Oh, yeah.
The generator was running out of fuel.
Yes.
My sister-in-law never missed a day at her, she's an occupational therapist at a nursing home, and she never missed a day of work. She went in faithfully.
Wow.
I think
that's awesome.
I know assisted living home survived it, but the generator, I don't know what happened, but the generator ran low on fuel. A lot of the oxygen tanks, there was like none.
Well, I want you to know that there was a woman in our community, in Hoopers Creek community, that they ran, when you hear the gas generators at night, not all of these people are running them just because. They're running them because they need oxygen.
They have
Yes.
And
medical.
this one woman,
Yeah.
they ran out of gas, which stopped her oxygen, and she had a stroke, and she passed away
Oh, no.
because they couldn't get gas to her.
Yeah, I wonder how many times
I
something
don't
like
know.
that happened.
I don't know,
'cause
but
it's
she was
gotta
a
be
lady that was just, and I knew the guy that was telling me the story. He knew her and very well, and they were all just heartbroken. But so anyway, Rick Carter meets us in Prosperity. We get the fuel in the truck. We make our way. He tells us where to go down in Columbia. He sits with the truck because I'm super nervous because I've got a bunch of gas and stuff in the back of my truck. I don't want anybody to steal it.
You're in a situation
Yeah.
where
Now Columbia doesn't have any gas at the Walmarts where we are, and I'm like, please watch the back of my truck.
Yeah, you're gonna have.
We're going in to get all this food and get the stuff to take it back up to Hoopers Creek because we just have to.
We bought a siphon.
Yeah.
To siphon the gas out of my mom's crushed car and put it in my car because I didn't.
Right.
I guess because I don't leave the property.
Right.
So gas is not like a thing in my head.
Of course not. No.
Yeah. So we'd siphoned out of
So
her crushed car.
Rick sat with the car. We did all the shopping, and then we went back home. Which, thank you, Rick. That was a lifesaver. And we talked to Sarita, which was very heartwarming because it was finally reaching people and talking to people, and which was good. And then we got back up here, and for us, like we talked about with people, like people are great. Absolutely 100%, like religious, whatever, it doesn't matter. But what I wanted to say is that Hoopers Creek Baptist Church, where we used to go, they turned into like this force to be reckoned with. I'm not really sure, and even the pastor doesn't really know. I've talked to Philip many times, and he said that just out of nowhere, these trucks just started showing up at the church, like with pallets of water, diapers, adult diapers, feeding tubes, like shelf-stable milk. Then it started being clothes and just all kinds of things, right? And then it never ended. It just kept coming. And then, so all of us
that
in the
happened
community.
at First Baptist Hendersonville
Yeah.
too, and they started shipping things out to places.
So we became like a hub there, and Holly worked at the command center with the pastor. And what they started doing was we took all of our ATVs, like we've got like a Honda Pioneer, and there's people that have like 4-wheelers and motorcycles or whatever. And we went to all the places who couldn't get cut out. Like they had like 20 trees down, and they found their way. They got to these houses. They started taking orders of the things they needed, went back to the church, did pickups, took it back to them. And they did this for like a solid 2 weeks where they were just going out. And then they set up chainsaw posse crews like you were talking about. They were sending crews to people that couldn't get out. This dude shows up from Kansas. We don't know who he is. Yeah. He shows up. He's got this skid steer on the back of his truck. And he says, if you guys can keep diesel in it, I'll run this machine. And he cleaned like everybody's freaking drives.
Wow.
Like everybody up there. He got everybody out. And he's still here.
Wow.
He's living in a tent. Now they let him sleep in the fellowship hall when it got below freezing. But he's staying in a little tent on the church property, and he gets up every day without pay because he's not leaving until the job's done. And we're like, when's the job going to be done? He's like, when all these people can get to town. And there's still some people up on Black Mountain that are having difficulty. Some people still don't have power, by the way.
Yeah,
we were without power for 15 days. And I was fine because, and there's something that Holly said, and I'm going to end it here. Holly said, this is going to sound terrible. And it's exactly what you just said, Andy. She said, I know this sounds terrible, but I thrive in this. I'm happier in this because it's simpler and I get to be around my people. Mm-hmm. And that means a lot to me. And I hadn't seen her that happy in a long, like really, really just enjoying everything. And I'm like, we're in like this catastrophe and she is doing wonderful, which was awesome.
Your objectives are clear.
Yeah.
And the things you do obviously help.
Yep. And we made several trips to Shelby and back. Of course, we were obliterating everybody else's supplies, but we were just getting supplies and bringing them back up just to keep things running and keep people going. I got to meet our neighbor, and she had this insulin pump and she needed to charge it. So she come up and use our generator. And then the church got like 20 generators and they gave her a generator to use. And I taught her daughter how to start a generator, because it was a pull start.
Yeah.
And just getting to talk to people. And then there was this neighbor, their freezer, they didn't have any power. So they made massive amounts of meals and had a table set out that said dinner at 7.
Huh.
And people would drive up and they would give them the food to take home. Like, just, here you go.
TZ was saying that, like, she saw Aldi in some places just giving away food. I tell
know.
you, that's one thing I didn't see here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we got, Harris Teeter got flooded.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have wanted any of that food.
Yeah, Harris Teeter got flooded. No Ingalls and nothing owned by Ingalls did that at all.
No.
Well, Black Mountain was
even the ones that had no power and their food was going bad. I think that's part of what probably TZ was referring to.
Yes, that's right.
Because they absolutely no Ingalls was about to hand you
anything.
Their thawed ham.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
Well, that their distribution center was completely obliterated.
Yeah.
And people were killed.
Yeah, there was a dude that died in there.
Oh, there was people in there?
Yeah, he drowned in
place
there.
is so big.
It is. It's a mile long. And
But
it was
the
all
entire
underwater.
thing was underwater.
Yeah, wow.
Which is why they didn't get their links back up because they had nowhere to link it to.
Mm-hmm. So I know that they took a lot of heat, but I think that under the circumstances, they just did everything they could. And I want everybody to know that our Mark Meadows, our congressman, who took the place of Madison Cawthorn, is killer. Mark Meadows, you know what I'm talking about?
I thought it was Chuck Edwards.
Oh, my God. Chuck Edwards.
Mark Meadows
was with Trump and all that crap. Sorry.
Before.
Chuck Edwards. I don't know what my brain did.
It sounded so
Chuck
good.
Edwards.
Hey, cut that out.
Chuck Edwards is great. He went to bat for all of our communities. He did. And he stuck his neck out. He was constantly in contact with the Biden administration. Like, get your asses down here. This is enough.
He also was all over your governor who was somewhere else doing something else. Yeah, like he's taking a lot of heat. And what does he care? He's not.
And I'm
not
even
reelected.
trying to get political. I'm just saying.
Where were
dude,
you?
He, and if anybody doesn't know Chuck Edwards, he owned like 5 McDonald's in Hendersonville. He owns the McDonald's in Hendersonville on Four Seasons Boulevard. Like, he's that guy.
Yeah, that one's not open yet.
Nope.
I mean, I'm sorry, the one at Spartanburg Highway is not open yet.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A's back though. Boy, it was. I saw the video of it underwater, and they're back up like a week later. I'm like,
Man, you
they
can get
are
Sandy
actually like
chicken.
3 feet higher than that McDonald's, though.
Yeah.
Right.
You can get Sandy chicken. No problem.
Beach
anyway.
we call it beach chicken.
But anyway,
it's only
all
a
in
little
all,
grit in your teeth.
I mean, I can't cover all of the things. I would love to, but we've already gone 2 hours and 15 minutes, so I'm gonna cap this. But but I'm in agreement with all of you here. Seeing all of our community and seeing all of these people come together, despite any differences, and that gave me so much hope for us as humans.
To our Burros people, our our family that listens to us rattle on and argue with one another and whatever. Out of Virginia Beach, out of Arkansas, not the O'Shea's. What was the
Karen? Oh yes,
Karen.
Servolution, Karen,
Servolution.
And the Servolution.
OJ's.
They sent up a 32-foot trailer from Texas
Y'all,
to Hoopers Creek.
Eric and Karen.
You.
Yes.
Thank you.
Jason Malowicki, Mike Pinnell, Diane Peters.
You literally saved people's lives.
Yeah, when you posted that video, I happened to be wearing my hat.
The Servolution hat, yeah.
And I do have to say thank you to Congressman Corey Mills out of Florida.
Yeah. He
was up in Swannanoa and places like that, rescuing people day one.
Yes.
Out of his own state that had been hit by a hurricane. They were fine. He's running for office.
Yep.
He's got a contender. I don't have one. He's got one. And he was up here. He said, I couldn't go and face my God, knowing that I left people to die.
Yeah.
He was also the person who rescued people out of Afghanistan, too. He took planes over there. But he brought a massive, whatever you call those planes that you load freight on, like an army plane.
C-71.
Whatever.
Something. C-something.
Full of food and machines and... Dude has arms
the NASCAR driver, Greg Biffle, sending Chinook helicopters.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Just flew him in, man.
Yep.
It's like, what?
That's cool.
Also, there was a group out of Charleston that they sent up 4 horse trailers full of horse feed, dog food, and like hay and milk and not milk, water and stuff like that. And they sent it all up for all of the animals.
And the Tryon Equestrian Center became a makeshift triage hospital.
And
Oh, really?
And do you
For
remember James?
people.
I didn't know that.
You remember
Yes.
James Newman?
Yep.
Who wrote Stillwaters? So he owns a like a whole like trailer park thing that got wiped out, and all of his people, like, they didn't have anything. And so Sheldon Smith, who was a friend of mine out of Charleston, they sent up a bunch of stuff, and we were able to coordinate it and get it to James, and then James was able to distribute
That's
it. So I got to see
cool.
James. I hadn't seen James and Jamie in so long. It was so nice to see them. But I have a million
Yeah,
stories.
so many people
so many
did
did-
such good
yeah.
stuff.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
But specifically to our Burros people
Yes.
who heard the call, who understood where we were or y'all were, and just started without being asked.
And I know
Thank you so much.
Yes, and I know I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway because they're unassuming about this. But all of the people from Berean Bible Church, they put out the word, and they just wrote a check for $6,000 and mailed it to Hoopers Creek Baptist Church because of the work that they're doing.
Wow. Cool.
Differences matter not. They don't. These
not at all.
eschatological differences
No.
and they don't care either. None of us do.
Nobody cares what it matters.
No.
I'll
Yeah.
take your money.
And
Yeah, you only
David
get to-
Curtis's wife, she's just been like chomping at the bit, like, I want to go help. I want to go help.
You only get to argue about philosophy when you don't have more important
That's
shit
right.
going on.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Eschatology matters, but not to a starving naked man.
That's why it wasn't so
doesn't
important in the
care.
middle. That's why it wasn't so important in the Middle Ages. They were just trying to survive.
That's right. Anyway,
Yeah.
well, I'm glad we got to talk about this for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it was,
You know.
it was a long one. A lot
Sorry.
to say. We all
Sorry.
probably could have gone longer.
Oh, absolutely.
Sorry,
And
Andy, that you'll have to listen to another 2.5 hour editing.
you don't have
episode.
to. You don't have to. Just keep it like it is and make it pretty. You don't have to. Let it be raw. Unless you just want to mess with it.
I would rather.
He does have a little bit more free time right now.
Just so you know, I can feel it in my wallet when he talks like that. No, just make it good, Andy. But anyway, so everybody, thank you, Sarita.
Thanks,
and thank you
everybody.
for your support
Thanks
during all
to
that
the-
time.
and
Yes.
also to
Making calls and getting people
Yeah.
up here and helping everybody. Whenever we got that crazy stuff about the South Carolina borders and how you squashed that, like, that's garbage.
Yeah.
Just get to work. That was good. And
yeah,
then,
I made phone calls to make sure that wasn't true because we were coming up here and I've been up here several times.
Yeah, we hear, and Andy pretty much picked up on it right away. Like, I don't think that's true. And I was like, I don't either. But I just knew that the pastor's daughter had gotten stuck in South Carolina. And so I was like, what's going on? Like, what is really happening? So we told
There were
everybody,
just some places you just couldn't get there.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
couldn't
makes
get there
sense.
from here.
There's still some places you can't get there from
Yep.
here.
That's
Our
correct.
bridges are still out at the house. I mean, we have detours. I have one way into my home. That's it. One way in. Well, two now. One last thing I do want to say. Up on the top of Terry's Gap, there was a landslide, okay? And it comes down these two giant pine trees. I mean, really tall, really thin pine trees. The landslide comes down, lands on the middle of Terry's Gap Road, and the trees were still standing on each lane. And we were like, oh, like, what's happening? So they had to cut the trees and push all the dirt off just to be able to make it passable. The whole thing just shifted onto the road, and the trees were still standing.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Have you ever seen trees standing on two lanes that you were just driving on just like an hour ago?
That's
It's the craziest
funny.
thing,
Just
man.
the roots, I guess, held.
Just everything just held and just went, slid down. It was wild. Rick, and thank you for everything you did
No,
for my
man.
family.
It's all good, man.
It was killer.
It's
Got a
all
big
good.
hug.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
It was exciting to get to know that everybody was okay,
yeah.
and that at least
For a long time, it was just me and Carter contacting. We're on the thread and stuff. Like, I think it's just me and Rick.
When
I
you're
know.
when you're close in the fact
When I
that,
called you, you cried, and it made my heart swell.
I did. I was like, oh my God, that's your voice. Oh.
I remember when we got service back after I had nothing, SOS only for a couple days, and I got like 40, 50 texts, like what TZ said, and a bunch of messages on other stuff.
Yeah.
I put my phone down, didn't touch it for a day. I was like, I can't.
I know.
I just didn't even respond.
But isn't it nice to know, though, that how much people love you?
Oh, yes. Oh,
yeah,
man.
it's good.
I know you don't want to hear that,
we love
but we
you.
love
We love
you.
all you guys, man.
I
Love
love
you,
you
Andy.
too.
Yeah, man.
Sarita,
I
Rick.
love all y'all, and we
Billy.
love everybody out there who've
We
listened
do.
to us and
Yes.
supported us. Thank you, everyone.
If we
who
ever
did
do
that.
this again, I'll be officially the honorable.
You will be the honorable.
Yes.
You were already the honorable.
I doubt that.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening, and we will talk to you guys again next time on the Burros of Berea. Peace out.
Bye, y'all.
Later.
makeup on, talking about my kids, all this. Like, there's no piece of my TikTok, in my opinion, that is like in any way, shape, or form bait at all. You know? And I get all this like,
You're still
I'm
getting lots
looking
of
for
views.
hi, you're so beautiful. I'm looking for a sugar baby. I'll pay you $5,000 a month. Nothing sexual. Are you interested?
Is this
I'm
that
like,
where you're like haven't washed your hair in like a month or whatever?
yeah. Yeah. I'm like, what is wrong with you people?
Milk it up, baby.
Oh, that's all that stuff's bots.
Unbelievable. Yeah. They're like, how are you doing today, beautiful? I'm like, I'm married. How are you?
Yeah.
Happily so. And my husband is way cuter than you.
My favorite are on like Facebook whenever you have like, you got all, like this really long thread and everybody's like arguing. Then all of a sudden this Chinese girl comes on and she's like, I love you long time. You want to be my friend?
Yes, I get
And
them
it's
some on mine sometimes.
I'm-
It's like,
I'm proud to say that I get the high class
Oh,
catfishes.
the call girls.
Oh.
They're always like Asians that work on the 77th floor of a building, like beautiful Asian women that work for some reason. Like that is apparently, I'm the target market for that particular catfish. I don't know why.
Well, I'm just not a target for anybody except crazy people who think I'm going to run the country into the ground and
Right.
threaten me.
Give it a minute, Sarita. Just give it a
Right.
minute.
when you pick up that
It's
TikTok, it's
coming.
going to do it.
It's coming.
Are
Yeah.
we rolling, Andy?
Yeah.
All right, let's get this baby going.
I want to. Will you?
Yeah.
Who has Snickers? Where'd that come from? And will someone throw one to me? Oh,
Oh, yeah.
of course, the Candy Man.
Yeah.
The Candy Man can.
Throw another one.
Oh, sorry.
All right, we're rolling.
Sorry.
Here we go, guys.
Fills it
All
up with
flavors
love
of-
and makes the
I'm gonna
world
ASMR
go
this shit and
round.
eat one right now. Poor Sarita's like,
What is
dying.
that all about?
Well, the ASMRs.
Yeah, I know what they are.
Yeah, well, they like the Chinese ladies that
Like
that,
eating ramen.
Well, the
No,
ones-
that's mukbang.
That's mukbang.
Mukbang, that's
mukbang.
right.
But it
Okay.
is an ASMR issue.
What's bok choy?
That is a food.
That's an
What's chalk boy?
That's an NSFW conversation.
Yes, it is.
I can see I'm not missing anything.
You're not.
Social, social crap. Yeah. Not at all.
Hey, you're not missing mukbang. I can tell you that much.
I don't even know what this stuff is. So y'all are apparently on a different kind
mukbang
of.
is fun to watch,
social
man. It's
media.
very relaxing.
That, so gross.
Just watch them sitting there like, what's so
And it's
good?
usually like a live animal.
No,
It's like
What
squid,
are
living
you watching?
squid.
that's Old Boy. That's a Korean, the revenge film. That's
That-
very different.
That's hilarious.
Like a
and
live
he eats a live
squid.
octopus in that movie.
Billy, I'm like,
I'm going to
what?
stop all of you because I actually am a mukbang fan.
I like
and I actually
mukbang.
do watch it. So, yeah, they get these trays of food. My favorite is when they get, obviously in Korea or wherever they're doing this, there's these trays of food that you buy and there's like layers. Back here is this whole like a row of this and a row of this thing and a row of this thing. And they just start talking and they're just like, and there's these tiny little girls just shoveling in massive
Okay, now I
amounts of
know
food.
why I don't watch it.
We've talked about this before.
I do remember
have.
it now.
We've had this conversation, and
The
I have an eating disorder, so I
slurping.
enjoy watting people shovel in food. It's
And
like
Rick,
very
that's
satisfying for me.
Wednesday.
He's so right. I'm not going
Except
to
Rick is
report.
skinny.
Not yet.
I don't
I
know.
know he's looking
Skinny
good.
Earth.
Been working on it.
I'm getting there.
You've lost a lot of weight. I can as I
You
shove a
were a
Snickers bar
giant
in my
fat
mouth.
ass, and so now,
You look okay now.
all right.
Okay.
That was now you look passable.
Yeah. Right. All right, here we go, guys.